What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 2 Candelas 31 if you want to be buried with you, I can satisfy you, please collect, flowers, evaluation votes. Advertisement. There were strange phenomena in the sky and the earth, thunderclouds surged, the air began to freeze, and even the sea surface began to surge with unnatural tides. Due to Marine's massive bombing, there were naturally no passers-by around to watch, and all the residents of the surrounding islands had already fled. Only the group of people present could see this scene. The people present are all experienced veterans. Those who can participate in Buster Call must be some elites with good psychological quality. However, the sailors present could not help but raise their heads to look at the sky dumbfounded, unable to calm down the panic in their hearts for a long time. Is this really something humans can do? It's almost like a real god? Thinking of this, many people quietly looked at Ivan. Everyone couldn't help but shudder after looking at his calm but cold eyes that seemed to be judgmental. Fortunately, I haven't done anything rude to him before. You know, they were very resistant to letting Ivan, a dandy kid, participate in their military activities. This isn't just a kid's house. Why would you bring a second-generation ancestor with nothing but a good birth to play in a place like this? But now, they really feel that their faces are swollen. If these are just pure second-generation ancestors, who are these people? Of course, if he hadn't been a celestial dragons, he would never have become so strong. However, once people's mentality changes, their concepts will soon change. At least, my feelings for Ivan will never be as bad as before. On the contrary, anyone who can stand firm in front of such a second-generation ancestor is already considered a skill. It's not like them, their legs are still trembling a little now. Is this devil fruit's ability? It should still be Logia's. Well, it must be related to lightning. I'm in trouble. Of course, there are also some more calm veterans present, and their mentality is still relatively good. There is no such thing as gratuitous power. This should be a display of devil fruit's power. The most likely one is the lightning-type devil fruit. But if that were the case, that would be terrible. Logia's devil fruit has a very wide killing range, and looking at his current range, it is definitely not small, and his strength is not weak. If they really decide to kill Spangdine, they may not be able to stop him. No, not only can they not be stopped, they themselves may be in danger. Everyone on board, leave immediately, return at full speed. Hurry up. Don't dawdle. Yes, XN. Therefore, the 3 vice admirals were a little anxious at this time and commanded the warship to start leaving. Fortunately, not many people came down, just some elites, and ordinary soldiers were still on the warship. And those elites also walked directly on the moonwalk, then quickly returned to the warship and drove away quickly. It actually didn't stop. Now that we have reached this point, it is obvious that there is no need to forcefully save Spangdine. Advertisement. Regardless of whether you can survive the fight or not, at least make sure there are no casualties. What are you doing? Take me away quickly. Seeing such a betrayal scene, Spangdine was shocked and angry, and roared at the 3 vice admirals. But at this time, they had no time to care about him and continued to direct him. However, they themselves did not leave, but insisted on standing where they were. Although it is said that the subordinates can leave, as vice admirals, they cannot leave. No matter what, they must try. But as soon as they thought of this, their thoughts stopped instantly. Because the sky that was originally just covered with dark clouds has now undergone tremendous changes. Countless thunderclouds began to release endless dark blue thunder and lightning, thereby stimulating the thunderclouds and turning them into a huge spherical black cloud. The appearance is similar to ball lightning, and its interior is filled with amazing airflow and electric current. The huge black balls continued to gather together and expand, and the compressed energy made the air below them feel suffocated. The atmosphere is trembling. Is space going to be torn apart? Allah, it's rare for my lord to be angry. It makes people so happy to be angry because of us, but it's also time to help clear the place. The only people in the audience who weren't surprised were probably Shinobu and Albedo. The 2 of them were standing quietly next to Robin and Saul, looking relaxed and even saying happily. Fortunately, they did not stay here anymore. Albedo stretched her hands forward, and a translucent energy shield instantly enveloped her and the 4 people around her, including Saul. Then a magic circle was formed in front of him, and then he disappeared in an instant and then appeared on one of the warships. It was surprisingly the same ship they were on before. What ability is this? A space-based devil fruit? This behavior made the Marines on that ship and several nearby ships couldn't help being dumbfounded. But this did not stop them from continuing to run at full speed. Of course, the most important thing now is not here, but the 5 vice admirals and Spangdine left on the last island. It would be too reckless to resist such an attack. Even Sakazuki did not have absolute confidence. But if you want to take Spangdine away directly, there is still no problem. Precisely because it was at this time, he did not want to bow to celestial dragons like Ivan. Therefore, he must. It's a pity that dreams are beautiful, but reality is very skinny. By the time Sakazuki came to his senses, he, Kuzan, and Spangdine were trapped in a dense purple power grid with a radius of about 3 meters. I said I wanted him to die. If you want to be buried with him, I can satisfy you. 32 The real, Divine Punishment Island, nothing more than this, right? Asking for collections, flowers, and evaluation votes. Advertisement, Dark Hound. Ice skates. Looking at the surrounding grid that trapped them, Kuzan and Sakazuki also began to directly launch their own moves and began to attack. The whole of this net doesn't look very small, but it is more than enough to cover one person. For them who know how to elementalize, it's easy to get out, but Spangdine can't get through it. So the only option was to forcibly dismantle it from the inside. But soon, they also discovered the naivety of this idea. The powerful tricks in the past had no effect when faced with this seemingly simple power grid and collapsed directly. Both ice and magma erupted, but only the power grid was not damaged at all. Let me, at this time, a Vice Admiral Ghost Spider with 8 hands outside also shouted, and then chopped down all 8 swords in his hands at the same time. His power is also relatively strong among the Vice Admirals. Since elemental attacks don't work, let's try slashing. Well, but to their disappointment, the slashing attack had no effect at all. Not only that, after touching the purple power grid, Ghost Spider felt a strong electric current flow directly to his whole body along his sword, making his whole body feel extremely numb, and he soon lost all his strength. I can't even hold the sword steady. For a Marine Vice Admiral, this is something unimaginable, which shows how powerful the electric current is. Hurry up and get it out of the way. Hurry up and save me. Spangdine was inside, already jumping up and down anxiously. Seeing this scene, he naturally knew that Ivan was really planning to kill him. I really didn't expect that it would be in front of the Marine Vice Admirals and so many Marines. Is this what Celestial Dragons is entitled to? However, the more he shouted, the 5 Vice Admirals present also frowned on their faces. To be honest, they didn't really want to save him. At first glance, you can tell that this person is the kind of person who is used to being domineering. After gaining a position of power, he will definitely become more annoying, and if he gets up, he will only be a moth. But I also uphold Marines' responsibility and sense of justice in my heart, and never abandon anyone. Advertisement, and if you give up now, it will be equivalent to allowing the Celestial Dragons to kill members of World Conquest. Homophony, so as not to harmonize, at will in front of them. But now, they really don't want to protect this guy. But at this time, Sakazuki, who was in the power grid, turned into endless magma and came out. But soon, everyone noticed something was wrong, because he did not leave in a hurry, but rushed directly to Ivan. Since you can't open the internet, just go to him directly. He didn't believe that after so many years of hard training, he couldn't compare to a second-generation ancestor who relied on his ability. Stop it quickly, otherwise, I won't be polite. Although he said this, Sakazuki himself did not stop moving, as if he was forcing Ivan to make a choice at this critical moment. Of course, it is also to distract the other party. In times of emergency, people will instinctively protect themselves. Once he takes out his hand to defend, the control on the other side will not be so precise. With Kuzan's strength, he can break out. You don't think I'm really weak, do you? But when Ivan saw this, he complained a bit speechlessly, and then with his left hand, he casually drew the Sakazuki hand knife upward. But in the end, a lightning blade burst out instantly, like a laser, filling Sakazuki's sight, causing him to angrily block it. But soon, he felt a force that was too powerful to resist. After only holding on for about 3 seconds, he was forced to retreat. But the scorching heat passed by his ears and burned violently, cutting off one of his ears. If you want to die, you can stay here, but I have no intention of wasting time with you anymore. Seeing Sakazuki desperately covering his bleeding ears, Ivan didn't feel anything at all. Instead, he said coldly and waved his right hand down. The huge, black ball in the sky was like a meteorite, and it began to smash downwards, falling much faster than it looked. As for Ivan himself, he was suspended in midair out of thin air, and then instantly turned into a bolt of lightning, disappeared into the sky, and caught up with the warship that had sailed away. Seeing this scene, the 5 Vice Admirals could only look at each other, and then ran away frantically into the distance. Wait, take me away, don't leave me, I'm a hero. Only Spangdine was left alone, in the increasingly dark and despairing world, with the last bit of land following Ohara sinking completely into the bottom of the sea. Boom! Hearing the violent sound, the Vice Admirals who hurriedly fled, as well as the soldiers on the warship, turned their heads and looked at the apocalyptic scene in the distance, and couldn't help but swallowed subconsciously. Perhaps, the real, divine punishment, is nothing more than this. 33 Don't worry, I will protect him, please collect flowers, evaluation votes. Advertisement, how is Vice Admiral Sakazuki's injury? It's okay, the bleeding has stopped, but there's nothing we can do about his ears. I guess he can only have mechanical ones in the future. That's good. He was able to dodge in that situation. If it were me, I would have knelt on the ground and begged for mercy. Damn, lousy is not that bad. Then do you dare to fight that man? Let's not do it. The Marine who spoke was originally quite tough, but when he heard the last sentence, obvious cold sweat suddenly appeared on his forehead, and then he shook his head hurriedly, causing the people around him to laugh wildly. Of course, the voice was lowered, for fear that their Vice Admiral would hear it. Although the battle just now was quite far away, for the Marines with telescopes, they actually saw it roughly. And such a big thunderball, it was impossible not to see it. To be honest, they did have a narrow view of the world before. They thought that Marine was the most powerful force in the world. Although there are many pirates, they are basically a mob. Only Marines can have the strong cohesion to unite the masses. But just now, when they felt the thunderball falling from a distance, even though they were already several kilometers away, they could feel the entire sea surface shaking. The other Vice Admirals were not injured, and only Vice Admiral Sakazuki lost one ear. But they are obviously in a very irritable mood now. If they were heard talking about this here, they would definitely be scolded. But it is normal. Who doesn't think so now? After gathering so many troops, although they successfully destroyed Ohara in the end and killed the scholars, they were severely punished and ended up in such a situation. No matter which Marine soldier, they would not be willing. And there is still one person who has not been solved. Nico Robin, the daughter of Nico Oravia, is also the youngest scholar in Ohara. At the age of 8, she has already become a scholar of Ohara, the island of knowledge that amazes the world. This shows how talented she is. If she is really left alone, the threat in the future may be even greater than that of her mother and those scholars combined. Of course, no one dares to say anything now. The man said before that Nico Robin would be taken care of by him. Advertisement. Although they definitely don't want to, what can they do? His strength is so strong that even if he insists on doing so, you can't stop him, unless you look at Marshal Sengoku's attitude when you return to the base. But it can probably be imagined. Originally, it was an order from the Celestial Dragons, and he himself said, I am the one above, which actually shows their attitude. Now the only one who can be brought back is probably Saul Vice Admiral. But as for this question. No, Saul, I don't want to be separated from you. Robin, don't worry, didn't I tell you? My case won't be very serious, I'll be out in a few years. No, I don't believe it, I won't come back after I go. Quote. Alas, smart children are not easy to fool. Looking at the young girl in front of him who grabbed his fingers and started crying. Saul, who looked rough like a beast, shook his head with a bit of laughter and tears. In fact, normally speaking, if he went back in this situation, it would not be surprising even if he was really shot. Because he had a lot of contact with Orovia, he might have known some secrets. Of course, he didn't hear it himself, and Orovia would never tell him. But the people above would not believe it, they would rather get rid of him permanently and have less trouble. Don't worry, I will protect him. At least he won't lose his head, and you can visit him regularly. Really? After hearing the words of the man beside him, Robin, who was still crying, raised her little head and looked at him with tears in her eyes. I guarantee with my own personality that I will negotiate with the higher-ups. Anyway, they will definitely listen to me for such a small matter. The man smiled and stretched out his right hand, then placed it on Robin's head, gently touched it, and comforted her. Maybe his smile was really charming, so Robin began to feel a sense of relief in her heart, and she was no longer as frightened as before. Because what she just heard was that these ships would be driven back to the Marine headquarters, and Saul would definitely be locked up at that time. But she was taken away by this big brother, and she would definitely be separated from Saul. If that happened, it would really make people feel uneasy. But, Big Brother, aren't you in the same group as the people who attacked Ohara? 34 Live Well, Robin, please collect flowers and comment votes. Advertisement. But after Robin hesitated for a moment, he still asked with some worry. Although she didn't understand what celestial dragons were, she didn't know why Ohara was destroyed. But from what she had heard before, she could tell that this big brother was actually related to the person who ordered the attack on Ohara. Maybe it's a fellow traveler. But if that's the case, why should we save her? Well, it has something to do with it. It wasn't me who gave the order, but it was the celestial dragons. There was nothing I could do to stop this mission, and although I don't know why Ohara was destroyed, that period of history may not be true, it should be explored. But we just simply want to know. What if once you know it, it will harm the entire world? Even if you don't want to, if you are threatened by someone, or you seize the opportunity and use it to tell it, the impact on the entire world maybe it's also huge. So maybe this kind of thing shouldn't be explored. Robin, who originally wanted to continue saying something, fell into uncomfortable silence after hearing Ivan's words. In fact, let alone outsiders feeling this way, even she herself felt that these things were too random. Even though world conquest has been banned for a long time, my mother and the doctor still insisted on exploring these things. In the end, they all died before they succeeded. How happy they would be now if they didn't do that. Of course, they did it with the awareness that they might die. They're all adults. I think even if they were given another chance to choose, they would still make the same choice. But after hearing Ivan say these words easily and comfort her again, little Robin finally felt better. Well, indeed, Robin, those are adult matters and have nothing to do with you. You should still have your own life in the future. Now that Ohara has become a thing of the past, you have to live well. At this time, Saul on the side also smiled happily and said to Robin. He didn't want Robin to continue doing those things that her mother did, that was forbidden in the first place. Now that Ohara has disappeared, she should live her own life and stop thinking about what is and is not. But I don't know what to do now. Robin thought for a moment, then looked at Ivan in confusion. Haha, you can be my maid like them from now on. Maid? But it's okay, Robin-chan is such a cute child, just seeing it makes me happy, you can learn slowly if you don't know it. Advertisement, although I don't like troublesome women, if Master Ivan agrees, I have nothing to say. Hearing what Ivan and the two women beside him said, Robin also looked towards Saul, and saw a bright smile on his face. Robin's heart that had been holding on to him finally calmed down a little. To be honest, after going through those things, she actually wanted to be with her important person. It's a pity that I can't be with Saul, but listening to her elder brother's words, she should still have the opportunity to see Saul regularly in the future, which already made her very satisfied. After all, originally, she thought she would never see Saul again. Only, well, big brother, why do you want to save me? Robin blinked his big eyes curiously and tilted his little head to look at Ivan in confusion. She never understood this. Why did this big brother want to save her? He obviously knew her identity. If she really wanted to, it was not impossible to continue investigating quietly. After all, she did understand those words. Of course, she actually has no such thoughts now. Saul was still here, and she could see him. That was the most important thing. Why bother thinking about those illusory things? What if it hurts him? But she really couldn't understand that even though her elder brother knew this, he still wanted to keep her. Haha, who knows, maybe it's just like what Shinobu said, he doesn't want to see such a cute child like you get involved in this kind of thing. Come and learn from me, there are 3 other sisters, too. Since you are about the same age, you should be able to get along better. Ivan thought for a moment, and then he smiled easily and said these words, which made Lil Robin finally relax completely. Well, actually this is indeed the case. Whether it is Ohara, the truth of history, or the unknown things that may be overturned by the protagonist in the future. He doesn't care about these things at all. What he really cares about is this girl who once moved him. Open black lens bracket I want to live. Close black lens bracket. This sentence shocked him for a long time at the time, and it was also one of the important reasons why he liked One Piece. Live well, Robin, 35.8 trigrams is the first speed asking for collection, flowers and evaluation votes. Advertisement, Alcatraz Island Ohara was completely wiped out, and the crisis was finally resolved. Marine giant Vice Admiral Saud was lost for a while and was deceived by the devil, but he woke up in time and did not cause any bad effects, so he was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Spanda, the initiator of the Buster Call who was supposed to be a hero, escaped because he was exposed for corruption, bribery. During his escape, he was shelled and killed. The evidence of the crime is conclusive. Vice Admiral Sakazuki was unfortunately hit in his left ear during this operation. However, a mechanical ear has been installed and his hearing has returned to normal. However, he performed bravely and fought risklessly, and was awarded a special medal. Are you kidding? Why is there no mention of Nico Robin or the existence of the celestial dragons in this newspaper? After smashing the stack of newspapers in his hand on the table, a tall and serious man slapped his hands on the table fiercely, and then questioned the man with the afro opposite him. What is a little surprising is that there is an obvious mechanical instrument on the ferocious man's left ear. It seems that it should be equipped with electronic equipment to fill in the missing ear. This kind of thing cannot be reported in itself. Are you going to launch the Buster Call with the celestial dragons and a group of his maids on it for sightseeing? Of course, the man with the afro opposite him was still very calm. It seemed that he had expected that the other party would say this, so he calmly answered the answer he had already thought of. But he didn't just go sightseeing, he also saved that kid. Yes, but do you want us to expose Nico Robin's identity? She is staying with that man now. But she is very dangerous. She has truly obtained the status of a scholar. A brat like this will definitely become a big problem in the future if we don't get rid of it. When he said this, the expression on the fierce man's face became more ferocious. If you were talking to outsiders, you might think that he was venting his personal anger or something. But the man with the afro opposite him knew very well that he was not that kind of person. In his heart, he has always had his own firm ideas and obsession with the word justice. It was precisely because of this that he couldn't accept what was happening now. Well, this fierce man is naturally Sakazuki, and the afro is Marine's Marshal Sengoku. Just yesterday, they had returned to Marine headquarters from Ohara. But in fact, when they first came back, there was already all kinds of news, which had already spread all over the world. He even knew that his left ear was gone. Even the fake one had been made. Even he was a little surprised at how quickly this kind of thing spread. Of course, World Conquest must have said this deliberately, in order to stabilize people's hearts as quickly as possible. Advertisement. This is understandable. The more information released at once, the more reassuring it will be. But what made him very unhappy was that not even a single word about the Celestial Dragons and Nico Robin appeared in the newspaper. Indeed, there was no one left in Ohara anyway. The only ones who knew there was a devil's son. Left were the Marines who were present at the time, and the Celestial Dragons and his subordinates. This matter will definitely not be exposed, but here's the problem. Even if you don't tell it, this hidden danger is still there. If you keep it like this, sooner or later, danger may arise. Why not just kill her? This is the decision from above. The above has given instructions. Just let Nico Robin stay with him and let him monitor him. We don't need to interfere. Is his single command greater than the conquest of the entire world? Alas, from a practical perspective, yes. Sengoku sighed slightly, then turned around and looked at the upright word, justice, written by himself above, feeling extremely emotional in his heart. To be honest, this kind of thing doesn't seem like a decision that people like five elders would make. It's more like the young man's own thoughts. But the key is that even if he did something like this, the five elders did not blame him. Instead, they allowed him to continue doing this, and even felt like they were helping him wipe his A*. Perhaps, his identity is more complicated than we imagined. How complicated can it be? Can he ride on the head of the five elders? Haha, maybe. Maybe there are still many things in this world that we don't know, but as I said before, you and Aokiji will definitely not be able to attack him again, otherwise no one will be able to protect him by then. Not you. Tisk. Damn right. 36 Little Maid Robin. Please ask for collection, flowers, and evaluation votes. Advertisement. Marie Joa, Celestial Dragons family, in Astoria Mansion. A young girl wearing a black and white maid dress, holding a tray with a pot of water and a teacup on it, slowly walked towards the man in the courtyard. It can be seen that this girl is not very skilled in this kind of thing, and her strength is a bit weak, and even the tray is a little unstable. But she still tried her best to remain calm, and after gently putting down the tray, she gently grabbed the hem of her skirt, and then bowed deeply to the handsome man beside her. Her movements seemed a bit unfamiliar, but her overall etiquette gave people the feeling of being a professional maid. Master Ivan, please have some tea. Well, I have learned very well, but there is no need to be so anxious, Robin, there is still a long time to come. It doesn't matter. After all, I live here. I still have to work hard to be useful to Lord Ivan. As for the man's comforting words, she did not relax. Instead, she chuckled and shook her head, and then put on a very mature look. Compared to what it was like before, it's much more mature. Alas, the environment does make people grow. These two people are naturally Robin and Ivan. Not long after they returned to Marine headquarters together, he came back with Robin and the others. Of course, Saud stayed there and was imprisoned, and after the report came out, it was said that he should be sentenced to about 10 years. Originally, according to the situation in the original work, it would not necessarily be life imprisonment or even the death penalty. But in this world, he is still much calmer after all. Firstly, he didn't attack Marine, he actually punched Marine, but it was in vain. Secondly, he didn't know any special secrets, and thirdly, it was because he was deceived. Of course, the most important reason was that Ivan interceded for him. The people above are also very direct. No matter how heavy the sentence was originally, they still didn't dare to do anything after the real order was given. The matter of Saud is actually a big or small matter, because after being a Marine for so many years, there is also a very favorable impression of Saud within Marine. This matter is a big thing turned into a small matter, a trivial matter. Now it is said that he will be imprisoned for 10 years, but in fact, the sentence can be reduced in various ways, for good behavior and so on. After all, it is meaningless to imprison a person like him. As for Robin, he naturally brought her back and became his maid in name. Well, there's actually no need, he already has a lot of maids. Albedo, Shinobu, and Hancock were all his maids, serving tea, cooking, changing clothes, etc. It's just that they weren't wearing maid outfits. But Robin put it on directly. Advertisement. This was not something he requested, but something she proposed on her own initiative, saying that since she wanted to live in his house, she should do something. Originally, this wasn't a bad thing. After all, if she wants to enter a new environment, she can really try to change her mentality. However, her title was also changed from Big Brother to Lord Ivan, which made him dumbfounded. To be honest, he still prefers the former title because it sounds more intimate. But now Robin. Maybe there is still some grudge in my heart. Although she knew she wasn't the one who sent the person to destroy Ohara, he was a celestial dragon's after all. If you don't have any ideas at all, it's probably impossible. In fact, Ivan himself had thought about whether to bring Robin over. Rationally speaking, he understood that this was not a good situation. It didn't look good for him or Robin, but in the end, emotion defeated reason, and he did it anyway. After all, people are emotional creatures, and Ivan himself is also an emotional person. Fortunately, Robin himself did not want to investigate those historical texts, so there was no danger, at least safety was guaranteed. Speaking of which, Lord Ivan, where have Sister Nin and the others gone? But at this time, Robin still showed a curious look and then looked around. She just went to get some coffee, but now when she came over, she found that Master Ivan was the only one left. They are going to try on clothes. A batch of the latest clothes will arrive at this time every week, and they will all go and take a look. Really? Did even Miss Albedo go? It would be understandable if it was Sister Ren who took the three sisters there. Miss Albedo usually stays away from strangers and only approaches Lord Ivan. Will she go with him? Well, she actually likes to go shopping, but she just doesn't want to admit it, so she was dragged away by Hancock and the others just now. Ahaha, it feels so interesting. Is that Miss Albedo really like this? It feels so unexpected. How about it? If you like, I can take you to see it too, right? No need. Actually what I am doing right now is. Why is there no one who came out to greet me? Are they all not at home? There is no etiquette at all. But at this moment, a grumpy voice came from the door, and at the end of the sentence, there was a strange and familiar tone of voice, which made Ivan couldn't help but smile after hearing it. It also made Lil Robin tilt his little head in confusion. The third summoned girl is about to appear, please guess who it is. 37 Godmother is looking for Robin. Asking for collections, flowers, and evaluation votes. Advertisement, please use tea, Miss Shirley, TCH. The temperature is too hot, there's water on the sidewall, and it is not shaken well. How can you be a maid? You don't know this about Armas? And you should call me Shirley Leah Palace. This is common sense. Armas who doesn't have any? Yes, I'm sorry. After hearing the scolding of the girl in front of him, the smile on Robin's face suddenly froze, and then he apologized hastily to her, with a trace of unconcealable grievance on his face, and even his eyes were slightly moist, got up. Although she said she was a maid, she had only worked for about a day from the beginning to now, and she was not used to it at all. Of course I feel a little aggrieved when I am suddenly accused like this. I'm sorry, if it's useful, why should I hire you, Armas? That's why I hate this kind of halfway monk. Wow. What are you doing, Armas? It's nothing, I just saw you bullying a kid, so I need to teach you a lesson. She has just started to learn, so why are you picking on her here? Robin, ignore her, you were very good the way you were before, just keep it like that. Of course, Ivan couldn't stand this picky, evil mother-in-law-like behavior. So he directly pinched the cheek of the girl who was wearing a bubble hood and a veil on her face, and then started to pull. This also made Robin, who was originally aggrieved, burst into tears and burst into laughter. Of course, she still covered her little mouth and tried her best to hide her cute silver bell-like laughter. She already knew just now that Miss Shirley is Lord Ivan's fiancée and a celestial dragon's. If that's the case, it's normal for her to be irritable, and she's also prepared to suffer some injustice. But what I didn't expect was that Master Ivan actually taught her a lesson and even helped her to speak. I feel like the way they get along with each other is so interesting. Really, it's too much to be so rude to me for such a little girl, Armas. When Shirley finally broke away from Ivan, she rubbed her tender and slightly red cheeks with her hands in frustration. But it seemed that he was not as angry as Robin imagined. I originally thought that with the violent temper this young lady had just now, she would get angry directly, but in the end it was just such a small complaint. Advertisement. It seems quite obedient. You deserve it. By the way, why did you come here suddenly today? Can't you come and see your fiancé? This is my free Armas. And bring back Ohara's orphan or something. My father will be mad at you, Armas. Did your father tell you? You didn't tell anyone else, right? After hearing this complaint, Robin was stunned, and Ivan also frowned slightly, and then asked Shirley Leah. Not many people knew about Robin's identity, only Marine and the maids he brought there. Their words were all cultivated by him and they would never betray them. So it was probably her father, Squareface, one of the 5 elders, who told her. I'm too lazy to tell people this kind of thing. but my personal opinion is the same as my father's. I should get rid of everyone. As a result, you specially kept the most dangerous landmine beside you, armas. Shirley did not restrain herself at all, and her speech was still so direct, even quite ugly. After hearing this, Robin's face became quite ugly. Why are the people of Ohara so marginalized? What did they do wrong? Okay, this matter is in the past, so there's no need to talk about it. I just want to make it clear. Otherwise, who knows when this kind of landmine will explode if it is placed next to you. It's useless for you to say this. Robin has no interest in those historical texts and won't care about them. Then take her to Armas among the flowers in Pangu City. My father said that as long as you take her there, everything will be solved. Go among the flowers. Is the godmother looking for Robin? Among the 5 elders, Squareface really handles espionage matters. He was the one who gave the order to Ohara CP9, but I won't write the bloody plot. I don't like it. There will probably be a new one in the next chapter, or the next chapter. Girl, can you give me some flowers? There are so few people giving them today. 38 Do you want to know the truth about the world? Asking for collections, flowers, and evaluation votes. Advertisement, Lord Ivan. The buildings here look like they have been around for a long time. Are they some kind of ruins? Looking at the dilapidated ancient buildings around her, Robin had countless doubts in her heart and asked Ivan, who was standing aside. Just now, they had passed the guard and entered here. Originally, Miss Shirley also came with her, but she was stopped by the guard on the way, and she was so angry that she immediately jumped into a rage. She is the contact person, but she can't even get in, but this little girl can get in. What a joke, but even Shirley Leah has no choice. The guards among the flowers are incompetent and directly subordinate to the 5 elders, and never even look down upon the other celestial dragons. It has happened before that some celestial dragons tried to force their way in, but were scolded and went to the 5 elders to complain. Instead, they were scolded by the 5 elders. After that, no one dared to go among the flowers. But with the exception of 5 elders and Ivan, this is something that all celestial dragons know. Even if they are so angry that they feel itchy, there is nothing they can do. But now, there is an extra Robin, which is really confusing. Well, I've been here for a long time. I don't know. This is where my godmother lives. Godmother? Lord Ivan's mother? After hearing this, little Robin couldn't help but show a little surprise. She knew that he was the only one in Lord Ivan's family. It turned out that he also had a godmother, and she seemed to have a very high status. And maybe, it's her. But this time Ivan did not continue to explain. He just nodded and continued to walk forward slowly, his face a little solemn. What does the godmother mean by calling Robin over? Want to kill her? No, it shouldn't happen, and if you really wanted to take action, you wouldn't have ordered her to stay before. What do you want her to help interpret? That's even more outrageous. The godmother herself may have lived more than 800 years ago. Why does a little girl like Robin need to interpret it? But before getting a positive answer, even he felt uneasy at this time. After finally saving Robin, he deliberately kept Saul behind to ensure that Robin would not betray him. It's already like this. If something happens to Robin, it will be a bad deal. Ivan. At this moment, a voice called him softly from the throne not far ahead. The sound was not loud, but in this empty and silent place, it was heard more clearly and seemed a bit ethereal, which made Robin a little nervous. Advertisement, but after she saw the beautiful and holy appearance of the other party, she couldn't help but be a little stunned. Because the other person looked much younger than she imagined. I originally thought she was at least a middle-aged woman in her 40s, but this person looks like she is probably around 25 or 26 years old at most. If it weren't for her very mature temperament, she might be younger. Is this Lord Ivan's godmother? Godmother, what do you want from me? As usual, Ivan smiled and said hello to Im, and then walked directly over. Robin also trotted a little behind Ivan. Im's appearance is naturally the same as before, and he even wears the same clothes. Not just now, she has been wearing this since Ivan met her more than 10 years ago. But he has never seen it dirty. On the contrary, it has always been clean and flawless, and it also exudes a dazzling luster and a faint fragrance, which makes him feel at ease. It's not you, it's her, Nico Robin. X2 but this time, Im did not reminisce about old times as usual, but directly named Robin, which made both of them a little nervous. Of course, this is also foreseeable. If you really only want to find Ivan, then just ask him to come over. There is no need to ask Robin together. Excuse me, what do you want from me? Robin, who was still wearing a maid outfit, had no expression on her face. Her words were respectful, but her tone was unusually calm. If she guessed correctly, then, the mission to destroy Ohara was my order. Sure enough, it was her who gave the order. These buildings, as well as the strict layout outside, already illustrate the specialness of this place. And being able to sit on such a huge throne shows that her status is definitely extraordinary. I know, so why don't you ask me to come over now? It's nothing more than killing her, or better yet, giving her a warning, right? Generally speaking, I can only think of these two situations. Do you want to know the truth about the world? X2? But what I said next made Robin and Ivan beside him couldn't help being dumbfounded. Are you prepared to tell her this kind of thing? 39 The truth of the world. Robin with complicated emotions, please collect flowers and evaluation votes. Advertisement, are you talking about the truth from 800 years ago? Well, haven't you Ohara been pursuing it? If you want to know, I'll tell you. X2 Hearing her say this so calmly, Ivan and Robin couldn't help but be dumbfounded. Shouldn't this matter be kept absolutely confidential? In order to keep it secret, Ohara and even the people on the refugee ship were killed directly. Why can such a top secret thing be told to Robin? It's impossible that after telling her, she would be killed to silence her, right? Ivan, come and see it too. Can I see it too? And not only Robin, but even Ivan was allowed to see it. You know, he wanted to know it before, but didn't let him know it. Well, I know, you have always wanted to know it, but you were almost there before, but now you can, follow me. Stood up silently, and then walked straight to the completely dark road behind him. Even though the gauze dress behind her was dragging on the ground, she ignored it and just walked silently. But there was a faint light on the dress, which might have been automatically cleared. Of course, this kind of thing was not the focus of the two people at the moment, and they soon followed. No matter what, since the other party wanted to say it, they naturally wanted to know. The same was true for Robin. Originally, she had given up this idea. Ohara had sunk, and her mother and the doctor were dead, but Saul was still alive. She herself had no reason to continue to cling to the so-called historical truth, and it was better to say that she wanted to escape. If it weren't for this truth, they wouldn't be like this. But now, if they really have the opportunity to see it with their own eyes, it would be considered to have fulfilled their long-cherished wish. I don't know how long they walked, they just followed silently. There was only a little light in front of them, and they could only see less than 1 meter around their feet. During this period, they turned many corners and seemed to have walked into various different rooms. But suddenly, she pushed open a door and came to a very open place, and the vision in front of her suddenly opened up. Advertisement There were still various ancient buildings, and they looked no different from before. But there were many inscriptions here, all written in strange fonts. Ivan took a look and found that these seemed to be quite similar to the special characters in the world of One Piece. Are these ancient characters? The origins of ancient Pluton, Uranus, and Poseidon. After seeing this scene, Robin couldn't help but mutter to herself. Obviously, she could read these fonts. You can really read it, but the real thing is here. Read it out and let Ivan listen to it. Said quietly, and then walked to a huge inscription. After listening, Robin also began to translate slowly. But as the translation went on, whether it was Robin who was speaking or Ivan who was listening, cold sweat broke out on their foreheads, their eyes became gradually serious, and they swallowed saliva from time to time. Time passed by little, and the three of them just kept talking and listening until Robin finished reading the text bit by bit. So, that's the case. No wonder this kind of history cannot be known to the world. After all the texts were finished, Robin finally calmed down after a long while, and then heaved a long sigh. The traces on these things were definitely not forged later, and they must have existed hundreds of years ago. This also means that the text on them is absolutely true. However, these things also hit Robin hard. What is recorded here is indeed such an important truth, which is what her mother and those scholars have always wanted to explore. Alas, no wonder. In short, once these things are exposed, they will indeed cause great chaos, and it is very likely that the world conquest will collapse. Not only that, the whole world will fall into turmoil, and even various countries may soon go to war. By then, it is not even known how many of the human race will survive. This is not just a possibility, it can almost be said that it will definitely be the case. It's a pity that Mother and others don't know about this. But just when Robin was thinking so disappointedly, a hand suddenly gently placed on her little head. The past is over after all. There is no right or wrong in this matter. We can only blame everyone for their different positions. I think if their spirits in heaven knew this truth, they might regret digging. Although, they may not regret sacrificing their lives for their careers. This may be enough, yeah. My heart suddenly became warm and peaceful. The stone that had been hanging in my heart until now finally fell gently to the ground. 40 This is not my godmother, this is my biological mother, asking for collections, flowers, and evaluation votes. Advertisement, how long do you want to make love for? Maybe it's because the atmosphere here is too harmonious. Therefore, who may be the final boss in the original work, finally did something decent at this time and interrupted the harmonious atmosphere by speaking. No, godmother, I'm just comforting her. Unlike Robin, who was so shy that he lowered his head and remained silent, Ivan pretended to cough in embarrassment and explained. But all he got was his godmother's somewhat disdainful, yet inexplicably cute, bean eyes. This is called Luo Likon, right? No, godmother, where did you learn this word? No. At this time, this terrible word that came out of her mouth also made Ivan couldn't help but complain loudly. Although there is indeed such a saying in this world, how did she learn such a thing after not going out for so many years? Comic books, you brought them to me. Well, it's better not to read too much of those things. I'll bring you other useful things next time. But when he heard this, Ivan couldn't help but break out in cold sweat again, and quickly changed the topic. Indeed, his godmother never came out, and Ivan couldn't do anything to her. But he still has a filial piety, so from time to time he will bring some books in for her to read to pass the time. After all, he seems to have always been quite idle, spending most of the time in a daze. Of course, the type of books depends on his own preferences, so he mainly focuses on interesting comics. At first it seemed that she didn't seem to care, and I thought she didn't like it, but it turned out that she quite liked it. Comics will do. I happen to be able to understand the type of girl you like. I silently continued to say things that embarrassed Ivan, but she didn't seem to be embarrassed, and she still looked calm and relaxed, making Ivan not sure what to say. There are too many types that he likes, but you are embarrassing him by naming them so directly. Thank you, Lord for telling me the truth. But at this time, Robin suddenly straightened his back and bowed deeply to The bit of hatred that had been retained before had disappeared, replaced by pure gratitude. After seeing these things, she realized how much pressure the woman in front of her who was supposed to be her enemy had endured and how much she had sacrificed for it. This is really respectable. It doesn't matter, I just want Ivan to feel at ease and not have to think too much. Also just looked at Ivan calmly and answered silently. Advertisement, but Ivan and Robin could sense a hint of hidden concern in her calm eyes. Yes, in fact, there was no need for her to tell Robin such a thing. The reason why she said it was just because Ivan wanted to take Robin with him. She knew very well who Ivan was. He must have seen that this girl was about to be implicated at such a young age, so he couldn't bear it. But even if he is really saved, let alone the pressure and risks outside, it is impossible for this girl to completely trust him. After all, who would want to have a sincere communication with someone who killed their loved ones? And this is actually the case. Robin did have a slight estrangement towards Ivan before, which was inevitable. That's why chose to tell this matter. If it were just Robin, could wave his hand and get rid of her at any time. But that would make his son sad. This is something absolutely doesn't want to see. Therefore, even if we make an exception and let this little girl know, it will save her from having to think about those things too much. Godmother, thank you. Of course, Ivan knew these things and was very moved. So he walked to then stretched out his hands, hugged her tightly, and said with some emotion. There's nothing lucky about being a celestial dragon's. The luckiest thing for him is actually knowing such a godmother. This godmother is closer than my biological mother. It's okay, but you also know now that you still have to have a certain amount of strength. Although your current strength is good, you still have to keep working hard. Okay, I know. He knew the truth now. Although it is quite safe for the time being, some things may not last long. Just like his godmother has lived for more than 800 years and is still unresolved, so he still needs to get stronger power to ensure safety. Well, then you can summon a guard now and see. Can't you summon a woman from Otherworld every month? I see that you haven't summoned one recently. Are you a little tired? If so, I will have someone give it to you. Buy some energy-boosting medicine. Ahem. No, that's not the case. Godmother, there's no such thing, I'll call you now. 41 Ice Queen, Esdeath, asking for collections, flowers, and evaluation votes. Advertisement regarding his godmother's increasingly bad remarks, Ivan quickly interrupted and then glanced at Robin. But little Robin also blushed and looked at him quietly. When he saw him looking over, he quickly moved his eyes away, but he still looked over quietly from time to time. Well, this little girl is really precocious. That's right, if you read more books, it may be easier to know some special things. However, it is indeed time for him to summon a new girl. The summoned girl also had a certain influence on him. For example, he can borrow some of the powers and abilities he used, just like he can now use some of Albedo and Shinobu's moves. Similarly, he was able to strengthen Shinobi and the others, and strengthened them a lot, otherwise, she would not have beaten Aokiji. The attributes of the goddess summoned with 100 points are not very stable, but there is an upper limit. Therefore, Albedo and Shinobu summoned similar strengths at the beginning. Ivan exchanged various abilities and attributes for them and added them up. It probably cost about 2,000 points in total. Well, around 6 billion belly. This price is already higher than the bounty on the head of the Pirate King. It is also because of this that Ivan did not rush to summon every girl, but strengthened them first. It's just a little too strong, and the two of them compete with each other. When she saw him strengthening Ninja, Albedo asked him to strengthen her too, and Ninja smiled and said yes. So everything that was done here and there ended up being passed on to them, which made Ivan very helpless. Compared to their strength, they seemed to be more focused on competition and jealousy. But now, it is indeed time to summon another one to see. In terms of money, I feel a bit short. How about summoning an ordinary one that doesn't require all kinds of harsh conditions? What's wrong? Are you having trouble? Is it the summoning condition you mentioned? Perhaps noticing Ivan's hesitation, I am also asked. Well, actually, I have a pretty good ability recently, but the god over there said that I need more valuable things. I'm still a little behind. And Ivan didn't hide it, he explained it directly to her, which made Robin on the side a little confused and didn't know what they were talking about. Well, the appearance of Albedo and Shinobu made IM feel confused, and he suddenly gained some special abilities, like Ivan's Thunder Fruit, which appeared out of nowhere, so naturally it would be very strange. So Ivan told her that he had met a god from Otherworld. Well, it's actually the system in his body, however, using the term god should make it easier for IM to understand. In fact, that's about it. Anyway, the meaning is that he has a good relationship with this god, and by giving the other party something valuable, he can gain corresponding power, and he can also summon some powerful helpers and so on. Advertisement. When he said this, IM also felt a little interested. However, Ivan felt that she didn't seem very surprised, and acted as if, my son is indeed special, which made him dumbfounded. Oh, take this and take a look. Is it enough? But after hearing what Ivan said, IM groped directly from the clothes on the side, then took out a bright night pearl and handed it to Ivan. Eternal Night Orb. It can keep people young forever and automatically clean the body and clothes of dirt. Recycling system mall. You can get 888 points. Holy shit. What kind of artifact is this? The moment after the result, Ivan was dumbfounded and his head suddenly became empty. Well, this is too precious, godmother, you should keep it for yourself. Of course, such a good thing cannot be sold, so it is better to keep it for the godmother to use for herself. It doesn't matter, I have a lot here, you can have as many as you want. Well, Ivan suddenly felt that he had been so stupid before. What's the point of relying on your own men to make small amounts of money? Wouldn't it be better to just take it from your godmother? The whole world belongs to her. Ahem, let me summon you first and take a look. We'll talk about it later. So since he didn't have to worry about money, Ivan walked to the side, and then stretched out his right hand towards the open space. Those who respond to my call and obey this will and truth, respond to me, come out. After Ivan chose the type he wanted to summon, he shouted out the summoning formula in a somewhat half-hearted manner. But apart from making the godmother and Robin on the side look a bit embarrassed, there was no reaction. But soon, the space suddenly became distorted. A biting cold feeling instantly enveloped everything on the scene, as if the whole world was frozen. Who? Is Otherworld summoning? I didn't expect such an interesting thing to happen. So, you are the one who summoned me, right? My little master. A mature woman with fair skin, tall and graceful figure, wearing a military-like uniform and white leather boots with long blue hair, slowly walked out of the twisted alien space, and then looked at Ivan with a slight smile. There was a look of interest in his eyes. My name is Esdeath. I wonder if there is a suitable opponent for me here. 42 The Rebellious Queen, please collect flowers, evaluation votes. Advertisement. It has to be said that some people may be born to be the center of attention. At least, the moment this woman appeared, she had attracted everyone's attention. Of course, at this time, even summoning a pig will attract people. But this woman does give people a heroic and majestic feeling, and she will instantly become the focus of the crowd. Interesting, celestial dragons, they are the pinnacle of power in this world, right? I like it. Sitting on a chair made of ice, after listening to the explanation of the man in front of her, the blue-haired woman smiled easily, with a look of interest in her eyes. When I first woke up, I thought this was somewhere, but soon some inexplicable settings flooded into my mind. Coupled with her master's explanation to her, she finally understood the situation generally. Was she actually summoned? Haha, how interesting. So, are there any suitable strong men that I can go and have a good fight with? But these are secondary. The important thing is whether there are strong people in this world. You know, she has long been tired of staying in the original world. There are only a bunch of weak trash everywhere. Now she only wants to fight with the strong. Or, little master, you can come and fight with me. Therefore, she quickly looked towards the man opposite. Since he is at the pinnacle of power in this world, his little master should not be weak. Forget it, I'm not very interested in fighting. I originally summoned you to fight for me. But the man, that is, Ivan, naturally had no interest. The reason why he wants to become stronger is actually just to make himself safer in this world. After all, he himself is actually quite afraid of death, especially in this world of pirates. As a celestial dragon, he should naturally be more careful about being backstabbed. But now, with so many super masters around him to protect him, there should be no need to take action anymore. TCH, I thought the person who could summon me would be a peerless strong man, but I didn't expect him to be a soft-boiled person. In this case, goodbye. But the other party was also more direct. As soon as he heard Ivan's words, he stretched out his right hand, and then condensed a long ice pick, ready to throw it at Ivan. I'm afraid no one would have thought that there would be such a scene. You were talking nicely just now, but now you're actually killing him. But in fact, it's normal for her to do this. She has been feeling a binding force since she was summoned just now. You can feel that you seem to be slightly obeying this man's orders. Advertisement. This feeling of restraint made her very unhappy. Who is she? The youngest and strongest general in the entire empire, Esdeath. If the man who summoned her was really a strong man who could defeat her, then she would be willing to obey his orders. But what about this now? There was only one lowly maid and a young godmother, who was dressed like a priest, which looked inexplicable. And these two are not strong, just like ordinary people. Well, Im's strength has never been too strong, just at the level of an ordinary person. But having a special power and not being able to die is very important. But Esdeath didn't care about this. She couldn't feel any power in Im. On the contrary, Ivan, the master, has a vague explosive power hidden in him. With Esdeath's level of belligerence, he naturally wanted to have a fight on the spot. If you win the fight, everything will be easy to say, and I will listen to you in everything. If she can't win, she doesn't even dare to fight, then I'm sorry, she doesn't listen to trash. Huh? Can't you do it? Tisk. It's a troublesome restriction. Is there any way to undo it? But just when Esdeath was about to take action, he realized that his hand was suddenly out of control and unable to throw the ice pick. Oh, because he is his master, so he can't attack? You can't attack me if you can't solve this problem, and I can also order you to do some things appropriately, so don't mess around. Ivan was still explaining silently, but in the middle of his words, Esdeath directly threw the ice pick at Im. If you can't attack him, just attack the person next to you. Anyway, it is absolutely impossible to make her obedient. Of course, it is impossible for this kind of attack to hurt Im. But there was no need for Im to do anything. Ivan immediately appeared in front of Im, and then a blue electric shield appeared in front of him, which completely destroyed the ice cone that was as fast as a bullet. Hooray! You will still stand in front of a woman, then let's have a good fight. Oh, I really summoned a troublesome woman. Looking at the fighting queen in front of him, Ivan couldn't help but sigh. Fortunately, he also specially enhanced all the initial summoning conditions to the maximum, so that she would be in peak condition as soon as she appeared. As a result, a completely disobedient fighting maniac was summoned. But since it is a disobedient mad dog, it will not obey its master's orders without a few whips. He doesn't like to be the passive one. It's time to teach him a lesson. 43 Esdeath. I like you, master, asking for collections, flowers, and evaluation votes. Advertisement. Well, Lord Im, let them continue fighting. Is it really okay? Looking at the two figures intertwining in the sky far ahead, and the sky that had completely turned into a mixture of blue and black, the little Robin couldn't help but ask Im worriedly, got it. Since just now, Lord Ivan has been fighting with the summoned Miss Esdeath, which lasted for about 10 minutes. Although it doesn't sound like a long time, in fact, as someone who has experienced it personally, Robin feels that this oppressive atmosphere in the entire space is really painful. Fortunately, although she couldn't see clearly, Lord Ivan didn't look injured. After all, he had used that powerful trick before, and it felt like he might be able to bomb the entire Marie Joa. Of course, he wouldn't do such a thing. But Miss Esdeath's opposite is really awesome. I originally thought that with Lord Ivan's strength, he should be able to defeat the opponent quickly. But the other party's freezing power seems to be no less than the previous Mr. Kuzan, or even worse. The power of freezing seems to completely seal the entire space. Even if the distance is hundreds of meters, you can still feel this powerful sense of oppression. Oh, of course this is not the small space it was before. After all, there are ancient cultural relics everywhere, so it's impossible to fight there. So Lord Im let them walk into a door here, and then suddenly came to this relatively wide grassland. This space is about 2 kilometers in radius, but the world outside that is not visible at all. Although I don't know what kind of power it is, with Lady Im's ability, it's not surprising that she can do this level of things. After all, she is. Hey, I don't want to say this anymore, I still have to pay attention to the fighting situation here. It doesn't matter, Ivan is stronger. Regarding Robin's worries, Im still looked calm, and looked at the sky silently. However, it can still be seen from her slightly clenched hands that she is actually quite nervous. She actually doesn't know how to fight. For so many years, she has survived mainly by relying on her abilities. In addition, Coupled with her own special characteristics, she has been able to remain standing for so many years and has been strictly protected by the 5 elders of each generation. But her own fighting ability is actually very weak. Any ordinary person might be able to defeat her. Therefore, she actually couldn't tell at all about the fighting situation between these two people, and her eyesight might not even be as good as Robin's. But she has absolute confidence in Ivan. She believed that Ivan was the most powerful now and could not lose to such a woman who came out of nowhere. Fortunately, maybe her prayers actually worked. Ivan's figure suddenly turned into a thick and powerful lightning beam, and then violently blasted the frozen side to the ground in an instant, creating a huge pit more than 10 meters deep in the ground. Advertisement. Of course, this is not the effect of prayer, but the gap in strength. Ahem. The blue figure who was hit to the ground coughed violently and spit out the blood in his mouth. In addition, the clothes on his body already had a lot of tears, and his skin was bruised and purple, as if it had been burned. The whole person looked very embarrassed. Of course, it's a little too fragrant. So, the winner has been decided a long time ago, so don't keep pestering me like this. I don't like hitting women. However, Ivan, who was slowly landing, had no particular intention of watching it, but complained helplessly. Alas, actually he really didn't want to be like this. After all, with his strength, if he fights Esdeath, he will just crush him. Well, in fact, even if he doesn't use the power of devil fruit now, he is still top-notch in this world, not to mention that he has already used this power with ease. Don't look at him like this. Before the system awakened, he was already extremely powerful. He wanted to protect himself by his own strength and never thought of relying on unreliable bodyguards. However, Esdeath had been suppressed by him just now, but he refused to give up at all. Instead, he became more and more excited as he fought. Even if he was injured, it didn't matter at all, so he could only strike hard. Sigh, the reputation of hitting women doesn't sound too good. Hoo, looking at the many women around you, I thought you were a man who relied on women to make ends meet. I didn't expect you to be so strong. However, Esdeath, who was seriously injured, was not angry or wailing. Instead, he remained lying on the ground and looked at Ivan with a smile. His eyes began to show a look of extreme interest. Hey, how could I be that kind of person? I just like to get along with cute girls. Are you so carefree? It's better to be more focused on this aspect? What are you talking about? If you like it, you just like it. Why do you have to force yourself to distort your thoughts? If you ask me to say it, if you like it but don't dare to express it, that kind of trash has no qualifications to talk about liking it. I just want to build a big harem that I like. Peeved ha. I like you. It feels very refreshing to be able to say such a scumbag statement so confidently. Then from now on, let me accept, and, adapt to you, Lord, people. Hey, if you say that, I'll be excited, then why don't you try it now? Well, it's better not to, I'm very conservative. Who, you really have the nerve to say that? 44 full of possessiveness, please collect, flowers, evaluation votes. Advertisement, Lord Ivan. Are you okay? Haha, don't worry, nothing will happen to me, I'm just doing a little exercise. Looking at the young maid who trotted up to him not far away, Ivan smiled and shrugged easily, then stretched out his hand and put it on her little head, stroking it easily. I have read novels before, and it seems that the male protagonists do this to little girls, and then they will increase their favorability. Something like that, of course, is unlikely. People will probably just think you are troublesome and mess up her hair. But it's really easy to touch, it's soft and very comfortable. And this time, Robin didn't show any resistance. You know, Ivan had touched her head before. Although she didn't avoid it, her body instinctively moved back. Well, after all, there was still a gap in my heart before. But now, I should have eliminated that thought. After understanding the truth of that history, Robin has completely given up her prejudices, and she is now full of respect and admiration for I.M. As for his mother and the others, it's also great, but it's just a pity that something bad happened due to different stances. This kind of thing is really regrettable, but there is nothing that can be done about it. Robin still knows the difference between right and wrong very clearly. As long as it's okay, if you're injured, tell me as soon as possible. I.M. also walked over slowly at this time. It was obviously quite far away, but she came over surprisingly quickly, as if she had changed places. Well, even though I can't fight, I can still avoid danger with some special abilities. Don't worry, Godmother, I always take good care of myself. He naturally responded to his godmother's concerns with a smile. She has always cared about him very much and treated him as her own son. To be honest, Ivan didn't quite understand why she was so kind to him. But maybe, she really valued those chats she had. Advertisement from the time she started staying until now, maybe she has never encountered anything like this. No, even before that, my godmother might not have encountered anything similar. She actually doesn't understand many things very well. She is like a robot, or a baby, who keeps doing a few things over and over again. Only after meeting him did he begin to become more humane. That's good, what about her? I am nodded, and then silently glanced at Esdeath who was following behind. She has now come out of the big pit and is following Ivan. He looks a little embarrassed, but he probably won't die. Well, I just gave her a recovery potion. She should be able to recover soon, But just as Ivan was explaining, he suddenly felt that his right hand was surrounded by a slime-like object, and a very subtle feeling came from his nose. The fragrant fragrance. Recovery is not so fast. I was beaten very badly just now, and it will take a long time to recover. However, maybe if I rub it more, I can recover faster. Do you think so, Master? X3 Who are you? Seeing the blue-haired woman next to her who had completely changed her attitude from before and showed an extremely intimate look, the three people present couldn't help but make similar complaints in their hearts. Is this really the woman who was beating and killing her at every turn? You can't see it at all, but for Esdeath himself, this is nothing surprising. It was so difficult to find a man who was better than herself and pleasing to her eyes. In her original world, she had never found one after waiting for so many years. Now that I finally found it, of course I have to take the initiative. I don't know, but I think you'd better put on this dress and cover your mouth, and when you wear a skirt in the future, it's better to wear leggings, otherwise you'll be casually exposed. Ivan did not respond directly, but he still took out a looser dress from his personal space and handed it to Esdeath, which made her look a little surprised. But then, the corners of his mouth also curved with a trace of pleasure. Master, are you jealous? Don't you want me to be seen by other men? Of course, I don't like my woman dancing coquettishly in front of other men. It's enough for me to see her. Peeved, I'm very possessive, but surprisingly I don't hate this feeling of being restrained. 45 This woman is really a mad dog. Asking for collections, flowers, and evaluation votes. Advertisement, that is to say, after you went to Mother's place, you summoned this woman. I feel like I've gradually gotten used to it. There are always more women around my lord. After listening to the explanation of the man in front of him, Albedo and Shinobu, the two sworn enemies, couldn't help but sigh with emotion, and then looked at the blue-haired woman next to him. The three sisters who were still training on the side also glanced over more or less quietly. They just went outside to look at clothes before, and this was one of the few entertainment activities they did up there. After all, you can't run down there every day. Beings like celestial dragons move very slowly because they are more or less pompous, even Ivan is no exception. But this consumes a lot of time, so they usually go to a store not far from here to check out new styles every week. Well, even up there are some shops. This is probably for the entertainment of the celestial dragons. After all, if it stays the same all the time, it will be boring up there, that is, the prices of things will be several times more expensive. Of course, celestial dragons doesn't care about this, as long as your stuff is of sufficient quality. However, when they came back, they heard from the maid at home that Ivan and Robin went to his godmother. To be honest, they were also quite curious as to who that mother was. She seemed very mysterious. But what's even more strange is that after going there, a woman was summoned instead. Well, it's not just random. It's at my godmother's request that I try to summon him, and it also increases the power of the guard. Master, do you think we are not capable of protecting you? No, you are also very powerful, but you still have to be busy, right? I am here to lighten the burden for you. Hearing Ren's smiling speech, Ivan was a little embarrassed to explain, although he didn't seem to be convincing. He also knew that he had indeed been a bit diligent in recruiting people recently. Hancock, the three sisters, Robin, and now Esdeath are also here, and the frequency seems to have become faster. It is normal for them to have some ideas. But this does not mean that he ignores them. On the contrary, he still attaches great importance to every girl. He hopes to keep them all by his side as much as possible, and then realize his previous man's dream. Well, that's probably it. After all, he is a man, and it is normal to have some thoughts. Lord Ivan, I will be responsible for your protection. You don't need any other women. Albedo naturally volunteered and once again expressed her loyalty. Although Ivan understood, he still had a headache. If you say something like this at this time, you will probably just. Advertisement, who? I just launched a deadly attack on my master, but I didn't seem to see you guarding me. Are you considered a qualified guard like this? You, Lord Ivan, are you okay? Sure enough, it started. Hearing the sudden sarcasm from Esdeath on the side, Albedo's face suddenly became a little ugly, and then like the others, she looked nervously towards Ivan. Why would this woman attack Lord Ivan? It's okay, she just wants to test my strength and whether I am qualified to be her master. I have her recognition now, don't worry. Really? But even so, you actually dared to be cruel to your master. You woman, you are really a mad dog? Oh, it's better than this loyal dog like you. Since you want to be my master, you have to defeat me. Can any man be angry with you? You are really a messy woman. You. Well, since you are so confident in your own strength, let's give it a try. When Albedo said this, her whole aura instantly became majestic, the air around her instantly solidified, and her whole body was filled with a sense of oppression. Who? Then let's give it a try, it's okay if you two go together. But when Esdeath saw this scene, he also showed an excited smile on his face, and also looked at the smiling Shinobu, which made her smile freeze. He actually provoked them both at the same time. Could it be that she is really so confident? No, in fact, this can no longer be regarded as confidence. Esdeath could feel that the aura of these two women was not much weaker than hers, and might even be stronger. But the more it looks like this, the more exciting it is. Opponents that were rarely found in the past are now appearing in so many at once, how can she not be interested? Woo! Snapped. A crisp sound suddenly came from behind her, causing her to cover her hands subconsciously, and then looked at Ivan with a red face. If you're injured, don't be so bellicose. Wait until the injury heals. Otherwise, you'll end up with it. XN It feels like he is really someone who would do such a thing. There may be some bonuses next, but the next few pictures may still have some main plot. Actually, I am confused. Do you like to watch the male protagonist pretend to be a master and beat the masters, or do you prefer to see the daily interactions between the male protagonist and the girls? I actually prefer the latter. But maybe it would be more appropriate to combine the two. It makes me afraid to write about daily life now, because I feel like people will think that I am not writing pirate novels or something like that. Well, is it really necessary to be harmonious like this? I'm so tired. Please support me with flowers. Can you also give me evaluation votes, monthly tickets, etc.? 46 little girls in the bathroom. Please collect flowers and comment votes. Advertisement. Hey, sister, has Lord Ivan been ignoring us recently? Yes, he didn't take us to the Buster Call this time. Does he not like us anymore? How is that possible? Lord Ivan is just too busy recently, so he didn't call us. When he has time, he will definitely find us. But he is taking a relaxing bath with the sisters now. After hearing her sister's words, Hancock, as the elder sister, suddenly lost the ability to refute, and didn't know what to say for a while. Usually, she behaves more strongly in front of her sisters. But after all, she is still a little girl, and she pretends to know many things. The three sisters are now complaining that Ivan has ignored them recently. Well, of course, they are not complaining in front of him, but in private. Now they are in the bathroom, chewing their tongues, not afraid of being heard. After all, Ivan and the other three big sisters were all taking a bath in the big bathroom on the other side, so they wouldn't hear what they were saying. Robin, how do you feel? Me. The only one who could hear it was another girl of the same age as them. After seeing the three sisters all staring at her, Robin couldn't help but show a bit of nervousness. Now, she is not the big sister who will be able to take it easy no matter what she does in the future, but just a new little Lolita who has just joined here. Although the three of them accepted her kindly when they met before, she is still a little nervous now. Yes, recently, Lord Ivan has been very concerned about you and has taken good care of you, so he has left us aside. No, there is a gap, wow. Ha, yes, that's it, let her have a taste of our revenge. Why is that? Then I'll come too. Hey, ha, XN. I have to say that the thoughts of little girls are sometimes quite simple. Maybe there will be some intrigues between some, but these four girls don't have such thoughts. They all know the hardships that each other has experienced, and they are of similar age, so they can understand each other's feelings, and naturally there is no real conflict when getting along. But we really envy you, Robin. Yes, I heard that Lord Ivan had a big fight with Marine to save you before. Advertisement, I also want Lord Ivan to help us again. Of course, envy is also true. Although Ivan is usually very nice to them, they have been training recently, and there are more and more girls around him. I always feel that he seems to have focused all his attention on the new girls. Does he not care about them anymore? Don't worry, Lord Ivan also told me that you were very cute and asked me to get along well with everyone. Really? X3? Really? Seeing the three people blinking their big eyes at her at the same time, Robin couldn't help but smile, and then nodded and affirmed again. They are actually very cute, and Lord Ivan will definitely like them all the time. Besides, I don't think I am that valued. After Mrs. Seeds appeared, Lord Ivan's attention was also on her. He kept staring at her and liked her every time he saw her. But when she said this, Robin couldn't help but curl her lips, and she also showed a little unhappy look. In fact, she herself was a little complaining. When there were fewer people, it seemed that he still cared about her. But after more people came, Ivan's attention seemed to be attracted by the older sisters. Yes, Miss Albedo is the same, she is very favored. Actually, Sister Shinobu is the same, sometimes she is quite proactive. Maybe it was because they opened up the conversation, so they couldn't help but start to express their opinions. For girls of this age, they don't quite understand the meaning of the word, like. But they definitely admired it. For a man who once saved them from suffering and despair, they naturally admired and had a good impression of him. So although there were many small dissatisfactions, it was precisely because of the admiration that they were still very excited to discuss. By the way, what are they doing in the bathroom over there? It's a pity that I can't see it. My ability allows me to see and hear what's happening over there. Really? Then take a quick look. Well, I'll try, it's dazzling. What's going on? Did you see anything? It's so foggy, I can't see clearly, but everyone is. Woo. What's wrong? Are you okay? No, I'm fine, I just saw something I shouldn't have seen. Huh? X3, what do you mean by something you shouldn't have seen? What exactly happened over there? 47-time management master, are you asking for collections, flowers, and evaluation votes? Advertisement. Well, actually I can do it myself. It's okay, Lord Ivan, as long as I'm here, you don't need to do it yourself. It's really a superficial approach. Master prefers to take the initiative, so just turn around and wait. Miss Esdeath doesn't seem to be like this herself. Of course, I didn't do anything, I just moved the horn. That seems to be even more excessive. Is it okay if the master likes it? Look at him now, I guarantee he has been looking forward to it for a long time. After hearing the speech of the blue-haired woman not far away in front of him, and feeling the horned formula of the other party, Ivan was speechless for a moment, and moved his face away in embarrassment. Kai Lai, embarrassed to look at the other three people present. Now he is in a somewhat embarrassing situation. It was obviously a dreamlike scene that I had been looking forward to for a long time, a copy of the bathroom. But in this sudden situation, he also felt a little at a loss and didn't quite know how to make a decision. Not long ago, Esdeath came back with him and took a bath. However, since Albedo and the others had just come back and had been shopping outside for a long time, they planned to wash it together. Then, they all ran to his private bathroom. Normally, it would be just him, or maybe Albedo. Well, after all, she is indeed very proactive in this regard, and there is nothing to hide. There is nothing wrong with you being willing to do so. But the problem is, this time Esdeath also came in directly, and even Shinobu is here. After briefly glancing at the black-haired girl next to him who was smiling but also had a pink glow on his face that he didn't usually have, Ivan felt that he could no longer hold back. You know, although Shinobu usually behaves a little intimately with him in private, he has always been more reserved in front of others. Even when she was jealous of Albedo, she was more restrained. After all, at heart, Shinobu is still a very conservative woman, and besides killing ghosts all day long, she never thought about how to live as a woman, so she doesn't really understand this aspect. And you must know that when she was young, she was a very rigid and serious type. Now he does this kind of thing. It can only be said that she is a little anxious. However, he is not such a wild person, and having these three people together makes him feel a little embarrassed. Not to mention, how is that possible? How could Lord Ivan expect that? Actually, I think what Ms. Esdeath said is not unreasonable. Is that so? Well, advertisement now this queen is arrogant and using secret skills that are impossible to describe. Ivan, who was bearing this power, also felt a sense of oppression at this time, which made his whole body tense. He wanted to fight back, but he was a little unable to do so. It can only be said that Esdeath is more powerful now than when he fought with him before, so he can only passively defend now. Especially now, Shinobu is still following her, and is carrying out a visual attack on him with Albedo and the other three. Actually it's not. However, just when he was about to explain, the other two people also used the same attack method as Esdeath, and they attacked him in succession. Three huge pressures instantly enveloped Ivan's body, and they were still attacking from all angles, sometimes fast and sometimes slow, sometimes strong and sometimes weak and unpredictable, making it difficult for Ivan to resist. I haven't seen you for a long time, so that's what it is. It's my first time seeing it too. I seem to have done something a bit extraordinary. I don't know how long it took, but when I saw the scene in front of me, the three women present also had excited and curious smiles on their faces, and they subconsciously licked their dry lips. To be honest, they themselves had no reason to do such a thing. Originally, everyone would have been more reserved, but now. But maybe it was because of the atmosphere, and because they were both dissatisfied with each other, a chemical reaction occurred, which made the competition between them even more intense. Although the progress may be a bit fast, it doesn't seem to be as fast as expected. Not good, on the contrary, it seems to feel pretty good. It's this feeling, an inexplicable fear, I don't know if it's an illusion. Woo. X3 but at this moment, the three of them couldn't help but let out a cute whimper at the same time. Freedom, civilization, harmony, democracy and liberation. Since you are so happy, then I will accompany you too. I think what Esdeath said is very reasonable, it is better to take the initiative. That's a joke, X2 time seemed to be frozen. After an unknown amount of time passed, it slowly began to flow again. But it started to become a little different, and started to flow with beautiful melody and cheerful rhythm. 48 seeds. Are you worthy of being called celestial dragons? Asking for collections, flowers, and evaluation votes. Advertisement, 45 just recovered, but 47 became harmonious again. But when I posted this, it was harmonious again. I'm tired. Wow, ha ha ha, so fast, so fast, so fast. This place is so fun. Robin, come and play together now, after feeling his hand being grasped by another little hand, and seeing the bright smile on the other person's face. The black-haired girl couldn't help but show a hint of excitement and anticipation on her little face, and then she looked at the handsome young man beside her. And after seeing that he agreed, a dazzling smile finally broke out on her little face, and she ran out together. And started to sit on a bubble car, and then started to follow the three young girls next to them who were also driving bubble cars, and happily bumped into each other. You had a lot of fun, Albedo, Shinobu, do you want to play too? Seeing their happy looks, the young man smiled and nodded, and then asked the two stunning beauties beside him. Ah, master, do you think we are still children? I'm not interested. If I want to hang out with Mr. Ivan, I can consider it. I can't sit down. After complaining a little bit dumbfoundedly, the young man also took a sip of the coffee in front of him, and then quietly looked around. There are obviously various facilities, and they are all still running, but there are no people around, only the staff with trembling faces. Sabody Archipelago, Area 33, Soap Bubble Park. This is a large amusement park, where King Luffy and the others go to play in the original book. Originally, he just wanted to bring the three little girls Hancock and Robin to play together, and asked the people below to limit the number of people a little, so as not to make it too crowded. What I didn't expect was that everyone in the park was emptied out, leaving only the staff. Just let them book the venue. Although some celestial dragons do this when they come to play, this is the first time Ivan has done this. Because he didn't even have to grab it. After the people passed by, those ordinary people ran away immediately. It turned out to be more thorough this time. But this is convenient, allowing these little girls to play as they please. Anyway, they only like to play with their own people. Those royal sisters in the original book are now real Lolita, so I really had a lot of fun when I encountered these things. As for Ivan, the brother, he was naturally very pleased, and just watched them playing in silence. Advertisement, Allah. My lord's eyes are starting to look bad again. Could it be that he wants to take action against Robin Chan and the others? But some people just can't see the good in others. It was clear that Ivan was enjoying a rare moment of peace and quiet, but Shinobu on the side laughed and teased him, which made him a little depressed. How is that possible? I'm not that kind of person. But it wasn't yesterday, I really didn't deserve your words. Ahem, Robin and the others are different. How could I have such thoughts? Don't think too much. But when he heard her say these words, Ivan coughed a little awkwardly, and then explained with a righteous expression. However, this answer has no effect. Not to mention Renzai looking at him with a slightly contemptuous look, even Albedo showed an obvious look of resentment. However, both of their faces were indeed glowing with an unnatural red glow. What happened yesterday was indeed embarrassing enough, and even Albedo's face felt a little hot when she thought about it now. Obviously she would only show her shy and gentle side in front of Lord Ivan, but it was the same in front of those two people. Fortunately, it's not just her, they themselves are the same, so it's just the same. Haha, who knows, when you look at Robin Chan and the others, your eyes look a little weird. So, having said that, there is no such thing as what you think. Speaking of which, I don't know where Miss Seeds has gone. If I had known earlier, I would have gone with her, so that I wouldn't be bored now. I don't even want to hear what he has to say. Is this really the acquiescence? Ivan was a little speechless, but Ren's words made him a little concerned. Because although they were all here, Ace was the only one who didn't. Instead, she said, I don't want to be like a child, and then went out for a walk. But based on her situation, she should be fine, yes. She's already pretty good if she doesn't bully others. Damn it. What happened to this woman? You losers, kill her quickly. He looked around at the corpses that fell to the ground without making any sound, with blood splattering everywhere. A middle-aged man wearing a bubble hood and a lot of beard couldn't help but look at the man sitting comfortably on a small sailboat not far away in front of him with a look of horror, holding the blue-haired girl with a fishing rod. It's so boring. I thought celestial dragons were all very strong, but I didn't expect it. Are you worthy of being called celestial dragons? You, 49 Ace Dessa's girlish heart, seeking collection, flowers, and evaluation votes. Advertisement, boss, I want a boat, a fishing rod, and some bait. Okay. Huh? Miss, are you alone? Yeah, what's wrong? Is there a problem? It's nothing, I just feel like it's rare for a beautiful guest like you to fish here alone, and it's also quite dangerous. Looking at the blue-haired beauty in front of her who was dressed like a military uniform, the owner of the fishing tackle shop politely praised her and couldn't help but persuade her. After living in this kind of place for so long, he has naturally seen all kinds of beauties. Although this one is indeed beautiful, he is also old, so of course he doesn't care about it. But the problem is, this is also a lawless zone. Although it is relatively safer because the Celestial Dragon's ship happens to come here when it returns. But she is such a beautiful woman, and if she fishes here like this, it is still very easy for some people with evil intentions to come over and cause trouble. Haha, it doesn't have to be up to you, just give it to me, I'll give you the money. Huh, miss, you gave me too much. Seeing that the other party actually threw all the money to him, the boss couldn't help but be a little confused. With this stack of money, let alone renting a small boat, you can just buy dozens of them. It doesn't matter, just think of it as an advance for the future. You don't have to pay it when I come next time, right? Okay, but please be careful. The boss was also a bachelor. After giving a polite warning, he said nothing more. Judging from her appearance, she seemed to be rich and powerful, so there was nothing for him to worry about. So the boat was quickly borrowed, and the woman slowly drove out. She was so beautiful, and she did not dislike the fishy smell of the bait at all. She directly grabbed it with her hands and put it on the hook, then threw it into the water. While she was raising her slender legs, he leaned on a chair behind him and sat quietly. It seems as if everything in this world has nothing to do with her, and she is indifferent to the world. Or something, that's not actually the case. She is regretting it now. After feeling that she was a little far away from the previous store and there was no one around, the woman sitting on the boat also showed a somewhat depressed look, then she put her hands on the back of her head and looked up at the blue sky. Advertisement of course, the fishing rod on the side has been completely sealed with ice. This woman is naturally a seeds. After she separated from Ivan and the others, she wandered over here, and then came to fish silently. Although, she actually has no interest in this. Alas, it's so boring. If I had known better, I would have stayed with the master. Seeds now regrets why he pretended to be an adult and ran out alone, even if he just sat there. Although she really has no interest in those children's toys, after all, she can even fly with the so-called moonwalk now, so playing that kind of roller coaster is naturally more stress-free. It was that bumper car, it looked interesting, and she saw the little girls having a good time. If you play with the owner, it might be surprisingly interesting. Ahem. So it's not because she hasn't played it before that she wants to think about it. As for those cable cars, merry-go-rounds, single-plank bridges, etc., they look very slow, although they may be surprisingly artistic. As a place for couples date, they may be more suitable. But the problem is that she doesn't dare to face her master now. Alas, although she actually agreed with her master now, and she decided to recognize this one. Even if a stronger man appeared again, she would not look at him twice. But the problem is that what happened yesterday still made her a little too embarrassed. She felt that she was quite open, but in some aspects, she might be a bit conservative, but yesterday, because her emotions were too high for the moment, she simply skipped those steps and went directly to the last step. It had to be said that she still felt a little subtle about her body. Therefore, there is an instinct to want to get away a little bit, but on the surface I am embarrassed to say it, and I have to show that I don't care at all, so I can only find excuses to sneak out. But now, who knew it would be so boring and I have no idea what to do. But at this moment, Esdeath suddenly looked towards a huge ship heading towards her in the distance. A cannonball was heading towards her quickly. Enemy, 50 Roswald is short, asking for collections, flowers and evaluation votes. Advertisement, report, the target has been hit. Well, I've seen it. It's such a blind thing. It dares to stand in front of me. It's such a hindrance. Looking at the pile of smoke not far ahead, a middle-aged man in sunglasses wearing a bubble hood and a beard on his chin said with disdain. Originally, this trip was quite passable, and I also bought a lot of slaves from other places. They were all pretty strong, and there was even a captain of a pirate group. But he didn't expect that on the way back, someone would dare to stop directly in front of his boat. It would be an advantage to blow him up. Boom. XN. But at this moment, an obvious roar suddenly came from below, and the entire deck began to shake violently. Many people on the boat fell to the ground directly, including the pampered man in the bubble hood, who sat down on the ground, causing him considerable pain. Fortunately, the boat calmed down quickly and did not capsize completely, otherwise it would have been even more dangerous. What happened? Were you attacked? Kill all those people. Yes. Saint Rosewater, XN. After hearing the middle-aged man's words, the surrounding men in black suits and armors also quickly began to observe the surroundings carefully. According to this situation, it is very likely that we have encountered an enemy attack. If Saint Rosewater really encountered any danger, then none of them would be able to escape. Therefore, they also hurriedly began to search for the surrounding targets. But when they looked carefully, they didn't seem to find any huge ships or the like around, not even a small wooden boat. However, when they took a closer look below, everyone was dumbfounded, their mouths opened wide, and they were completely unable to react. You losers. What on earth are you dawdling about? Huh? Roswald was also very angry when he saw them all standing by the railing without saying a word. So he also looked over, wanting to see clearly what was going on. But when he saw it, he was dumbfounded, because under their ship, the sea surface within a few hundred meters of the surrounding area was all frozen. And even about a third of their ship was completely frozen. What's going on? Could it be said that the ship stopped for a moment just now because of the appearance of these ices? This is too sudden. Look, there's someone there. But at this time, a person shouted, and many people followed his finger and looked over. Advertisement. I saw a stunning beauty with long blue hair standing where the small boat that had been bombarded before was. And her feet were also the starting point of the ice. Less than 1 meter behind her, there was already ordinary sea surface. She was the one who attacked them. The people present were shocked and angry, and some people had already returned to the shelling point, then pointed the cannon at her side, and fired the shells violently. With just one shot, this woman can be turned into cannon fodder again. This time there will be no mistakes. Unfortunately, this time, Esdeath will not be as easy to talk to as before. Facing the surging cannonballs, Esdeath didn't even look at it. Then he kicked his feet violently and rushed straight towards the deck of the giant ship at a speed faster than the cannonballs. All those cannonballs were completely empty. Whoa, monster. Kill her. Seeing Esdeath appear instantly like a ghost, the people around him instantly panicked, but naturally some of them shot directly. We've already reached this point, why don't we wait for death if we don't shoot? Of course, if the cannonballs are useless, what's the use of the gun? All the bullets were blocked by a light blue energy shield around her, making it impossible to move forward at all. Do you know who I am? I am Celestial Dragon's Roswald. If you dare to attack me, your life will be worse than death. Oh, let me tell you, it's such a grand display. Esdeath couldn't help but sigh when he saw the middle-aged man in front of him who was still sitting on the ground, but was about to die, but still looked arrogant and angry. Can such a thing also be in power? This world is even more outrageous than her original world. It's so boring. I thought celestial dragons were all very strong, but I didn't expect that. Do you deserve to be called celestial dragons? In her heart, only her master is qualified to be called celestial dragons. I originally thought that the remaining celestial dragons should be barely passable, but they turned out to be such useless idiots. It's disgusting to look at. It seems that you don't know my dignity at all. If you dare to attack me, Marine will dispatch its elite, and even the highest combat strength admiral may dispatch. Do you think you can run here? I advise you to kneel down and lick my feet. Really, I don't think I saw your feet. After swiping the knife lightly, the figure sitting on the deck in front of him instantly became shorter. The remaining part was picked up by Esdeath with an ice sword, and then thrown directly into the sea like garbage in front of all the horrified people. But I am a little interested in that so-called admiral. Please call me quickly and I will see when he will come. It turns out that he is a piece of trash who pretends to be powerful. This kind of trash can actually become the pinnacle of power. This world is outrageous enough. Does the owner actually have the same identity as this kind of trash? I really feel pity for him. 51. Are you teaching me how to do things? Asking for collections, flowers, and evaluation votes. Advertisement. The celestial dragons were attacked? Even their legs were chopped off? Not only did the other party not run away, but he also threatened to fight Admiral? Are you kidding? Marshal Sengoku, we have to go out and give that person a look. Calm down, this situation is too sudden. If you all go out, maybe other forces will take the opportunity to sneak in. It is better to guard your posts. Looking at the group of indignant marine officers in front of him, Sengoku, as the marshal, tried his best to calm down his mood at this time, and then spoke to comfort them. When he was still an admiral, he thought that he could just be a powerful fighter. But now that he is a marshal, there are many things that he cannot do by himself, which makes it even more troublesome. When the emergency call came in, they were sitting in a meeting. After all, it has only been 2 days since Ohara's incident, and now there are all kinds of public dissatisfaction happening all over the world. After all, before that, Ohara was still a paradise that many people yearned for, especially those scholars. Those people are all good writers, and many of them are engaged in the journalistic industry, so they have already started writing randomly. Now is the meeting to prohibit this kind of behavior. Of course, it is actually strictly prohibited, but there are still some specific situations that require detailed analysis. But the sudden call caught them all off guard. Roswald, one of the celestial dragons, had his legs chopped off by a very powerful woman, and he is now not far from the entrance of the Sabody archipelago. To be honest, if they were just attacked and asked for reinforcements, it wouldn't be a big deal. After all, the celestial dragons are so annoying. If you encounter a few masters who want to deal with them, it's normal even if they use ruthless methods. Who wouldn't want to take revenge if they have the chance? But the problem is, after that woman did such a thing, not only did she not leave, but she still sat on the boat and threatened to wait for their admiral to pass by. Just kidding. Now the admirals are all in the second half of the New World, competing with those emperors. How can they have the time to sit here? But this kind of behavior is indeed a direct contempt for Marine and cannot be tolerated. If they fail to defeat their opponent this time, they will not only be criticized by celestial dragons, but also criticized by the fishing boat, saying that they are incompetent. Coupled with Ohara's previous incident, it's even worse. Alas, there are really more and more troublesome things now, and he also has a headache. Sakazuki, how are you doing? Can you take action? So after hesitating for a while, Sengoku also spoke to a serious-looking man beside him who had been silent. And after hearing that it was him, the remaining Marines who were filled with indignation just now fell silent. Advertisement after all, even if they were added together, they might not be this man's opponent. To be honest, the real experts are not hiding in the Marine headquarters now, they're all on the front lines. Even Kuzan and the others, who just came back not long ago, have already returned to the New World. Only Sakazuki had an ear problem, so he stayed here to recuperate for a while. As a result, I didn't expect that it would come in handy now. Well, I'll go. Sakazuki nodded calmly as usual, then stood up and left silently. Like a tool of justice, he does what he should do in his position. He actually didn't think much about it. Since the last incident, his favorability towards celestial dragons has dropped to an extremely low level. As a celestial dragons, that man was able to directly order them to do so many things without any punishment in the end. Not to mention punishment, those decisions were all made by him. Although Spangdine said that he was a scumbag, he was not guilty of corruption or bribery. But all those things were exposed, and in the end he was ruined and reviled. This was just because the man was unhappy with him. Right. It's still a question of rights. I really hope that one day I can stand at the pinnacle of power and execute real justice. So, it's been so long, why hasn't the so-called admiral come yet? I'm already a little impatient, so I might as well dissolve the ice. Sitting on the throne made of ice stone, looking with disdain at the middle-aged man sitting on the ground in front of him, whose face had become extremely ugly and frightened, Esdeath continued to say something silently, and then raised his sword aiming at the ice cubes coming out of the cracks in his legs. Well, if he hadn't been frozen, he would have died of excessive blood loss long ago. But it's really boring to just keep waiting like this, so why not continue to do a few more? Anyway, about half of these guards have been killed, leaving the cowards who dare not even go up, so there seems to be no need to live. Don't mess around. Are you teaching me how to do things? I'll continue now. I'm finally here. Esdeath, who originally wanted to continue to intimidate and relax a little, also looked at the figure flying quickly from the sky not far away, and then curled up the corners of his mouth. I can finally relieve my boredom. 52 Her name is Esdeath, she is my woman, please collect flowers, evaluation votes. Advertisement, are you the only one? I thought a group of people would come over. Forget it, now that they're here, this stupid pig is of no use anymore. Seeing this serious-faced figure appearing next to him, Esdeath finally stood up, and then pierced the ice sword in his hand directly towards Roswald. Fortunately, at the moment when everyone was about to suffocate, a figure appeared in front of him instantly, and then used his magma-like body to instantly melt the ice sword. XN. Seeing this scene, the people present couldn't help but cheered. Before this person came, they had been frightened and on tenterhooks all the time. This woman is truly a devil. After Saint Rosewater was chopped down just now, some people tried to rescue him, but they were all killed by her sword, and no one needed to take a second blow. But the seemingly delicate body contains extremely powerful power. It can easily cut open the armor and peeps of the guards. Either the knowledge is cut off or they are directly separated, and the blood has already been splashed everywhere. Some maids were so frightened that they fainted. She herself had been spattered with blood just now, but she didn't care at all. Instead, she seemed to enjoy the bloodbath. But soon, the bloodline on her body and clothes disappeared, as if it had never appeared in the first place. Well, before leaving, actually gave Ivan a bunch of Eternal Night orbs. Maybe it was because Ivan looked very greedy, so just gave him a dozen or so pills, and if he still couldn't get enough, just keep taking them. All I can say is that having an extremely rich mother is indeed different. Of course Esdeath doesn't pay attention to these. Although she did find this thing very convenient, her focus now was not on it, but on the man in front of her. Looking at you, you should be able to bring me a little fun. Having said that, Esdeath also condensed a long sword of ice again, and then stabbed towards the opponent instantly. The other party also turned into the appearance of magma, and then began a fierce bombardment. Every collision made the entire space tremble. Everyone present was frightened and completely stunned. A few of the bolder ones wanted to get closer and pull Roseward back. But before they could reach him, his legs had frozen automatically, and not long after, they were cut in half or more by the aftermath of the slash. Seeing this scene, everyone present couldn't help but flinch back, which only made Roswald itchy with anger, but he didn't dare to say anything, for fear that the disaster star not far away would kill him. Now, we can only hope that this Marine can be solved quickly. But what he didn't know was that the Marine who was helping him fight against Esdeath was also suffering from something he couldn't express. I didn't want to play for celestial dragons, not to mention this guy looked very unpleasant. But there is no way, the task is the task, he must complete it. But he was too naive. This woman's strength is much stronger than imagined. This freezing ability looks a bit like Kuzan's, but it's more lethal and faster. Advertisement. After several interviews, he even felt a little tired. Hey, isn't that the only level? Or is this place making you unable to let go and timid? It's too boring. Damn it. This woman is so arrogant. Seeing the obvious disappointment and contempt in her eyes, Sakazuki's anger couldn't help but rise again and again, but he couldn't help but take a breath. In fact, it has nothing to do with the place of fighting. The power shown by this woman is already much stronger than him. If you continue to fight, you will definitely lose. A person of this level, and a woman at that, is almost as good as the so-called Big Mom. Such a person would suddenly attack the celestial dragons, and it was at the door of Sabody. This was really unexpected by everyone. Who are you exactly? So Sakazuki also asked directly. Whether the other party answers or not is her own business, but she has too little information now and there is nothing she can do. Do I need to tell you? Huh? It turns out it's the rat who didn't even dare to tell me his name. Roar? Seeing the other party calling her that, Esdeath couldn't help but show a little surprise. This man looked rigid, but his mind worked quite quickly and he was very proficient in provocation, which made her want to say something. Of course, this was not because she had fallen victim to the provocation, but because she herself did not bother to hide it. Just chop it off. She never cared about such small things. As for whether it would cause trouble to her master, she didn't bother to think about it. If his master cannot accept this, it means he is just that kind of man. Her name is Esdeath, she is my woman. But at this moment, a voice suddenly appeared in front of her like muffled thunder. Then there was a sudden sound of thunder from the air, and it rang directly next to her. Looking at this familiar figure, Esdeath was stunned for a moment before a bright and satisfied smile appeared on his face. It's you? But after seeing this person's appearance, Sakazuki's face became extremely ugly. Sure enough, he should have guessed it. People who are so unscrupulous and wanton do not exist everywhere. 53. Is he looking for death? Oh, that's okay. Please collect flowers and comment votes. Advertisement. Because what the readers in the comment area said is indeed reasonable, I have also changed part of the plot here. Previously, Akainu attacked the male protagonist in Ohara. Even if there is no heavy punishment, there should be some punishment. I have changed it here. Part of the plot in this chapter, I hope it can be more reasonable. Master came so quickly, I thought I could continue playing for a while. After hearing what he just said, Esdeath was stunned for a moment, then smiled, walked up to the man, and directly pressed his arm, completely ignoring the completely dumbfounded people around him. Of course, she herself wouldn't care about these rubbish looks. Her master is willing to directly say that she is his woman in this situation, so she should show it a little bit. You are really capable of causing trouble. You have only had so little time to make trouble, and yet you have made such a big mistake. Then master, how do you want to punish me? You'll know when you get back. Hearing these words, Esdeath's body couldn't help but trembled slightly, but the arm he held around him tightened a little tighter. It's you? Ivanlos, look at the good things you've done. At this time, Roswad, who had been sitting on the ground, also viciously said the name of this new man, his eyes full of hatred. And those people on the side, although they all saw it, they all remained silent, or dared not say a word. If they were to say who they were most afraid of meeting, it would definitely be the man in front of them. They were usually domineering, but when they met this person, they had no choice but to avoid his sharp edge. Even their master could only avoid his sharp edge. But they didn't expect that this crazy woman was actually his woman. It's none of my business, I just let her go out for a walk. Speaking of which, Esdeath, how did you make him like this? I was fishing on the boat, and this guy came right over with a cannonball, and he said he wanted me to kneel down and lick his feet, so I chopped off his feet. He's looking for death? Oh, then it's okay, well done. XN, can this be considered a good job? What forced logic? Everyone couldn't help but complain. But what they don't know is that their usual behavior is actually even more illogical. With civilians, they never make any sense. Advertisement. If Esdeath was just an ordinary woman, she would have been subjected to inhuman torture by now. But this is the reality. When you treat others wantonly, you must also be mentally prepared for revenge. Otherwise, when retribution comes, you won't be able to accept the facts like you are now. Okay, There seems to be nothing going on here, we're almost leaving. Sakazuki, you can go back. What was even more shocking was that Ivan waved his hand directly at Sakazuki, as if to shoo away a fly. How could Sakazuki tolerate this kind of behavior? But even if he wants to have an attack, he still has the most rational sense. Sengoku had warned him before, saying that if he met this man in the future, he must not mess with him, let alone attack him. Otherwise, his marine identity may be taken away. How ridiculous, but also so realistic. Rights are such easy to use and powerful things. In fact, it's not just him, but also Kuzan. Although Kuzan didn't hurt him before, he had built an ice wall around him, which was indeed a bit rebellious. Even if this matter has not been exposed, there is still some news within Marine. Sengoku also quickly learned about this matter, and then gave Kuzan a stern warning. Wanting to let Nico Robin go was a huge crime in itself, but he actually took action against the Celestial Dragons. Any one of them would be enough to send him to jail. Fortunately, the other party didn't dig into it that time, probably because he took the initiative to follow him. But remember, Celestial Dragons can be unreasonable. Don't leave. The score between us has not been settled yet. Marine, kill him. It's really annoying. It's just 2 of your legs. What's there to be bothered about? You bullied my woman and I didn't kill you directly. It's already a big honor. You don't think I want to apologize to you, do you? It's a waste. Lousy time. But Ivan did not give him any face, but glanced at him with disdain, his eyes full of contempt, which made Roseward so angry that he almost spit out a mouthful of blood. However, Ivan did not continue to pay attention to him. Instead, he silently hugged Acid's slender waist, hugged him into his arms, and then put a little force on his feet. The next moment, his whole body turned into a bolt of lightning again and disappeared towards the avenue inside. Only Sakazuki, who was standing motionless with a gloomy expression on his face, was left, as were everyone else with equally ugly expressions. Damn Ivan. I will never let go of this matter, just watch, tomorrow, I will make you fall from your position in Celestial Dragons. Only Roswald had a face full of hatred, and he gritted his teeth and said frightening words. 54 I am. Punishment? No need, please collect, flowers, evaluation votes. Advertisement, have you heard? Roswad's legs were chopped off, the murderer was a woman under Ivan Ross? Damn, he's crazy. He's an only son, and he doesn't even have a child yet. Now his parents are going crazy and want to call all the families to protest against the 5 elders. I'm also going to go. After all, that brat Ivan is really very unpleasant. I advise you not to do it. 5 elders' attitude has been very ambiguous recently. It seems like they are punishing him, but in fact they have never restricted him in any way over the years. I'm afraid his identity is really not simple. How can it not be simple? Does it mean that the 5 elders have to listen to him? It's really hard to say. No way? Ahem, tell me in detail. Oh, he's caused big trouble again. I'm afraid he won't be able to suppress it easily this time. There is no way, after all, he has never done anything so serious before, and this time it was not him who did it himself, but the new woman from Otherworld, who appeared next to him. Speaking of which, the first woman with wings already showed signs of this. Although she didn't leave any permanent scars, she was seriously injured at least. Indeed, although the other woman seems to have a good temper, she actually seems to have hurt Kuzan, and she is also quite extreme in terms of strength and temperament. Oh, but you've done this kind of thing, you can't just ignore it completely, right? There has to be a punishment, right? X4 After hearing this, the other 4 people next to him also fell into silence. The person who spoke also had a slightly embarrassed look on his face. Logically speaking, there must be a certain amount of punishment. Although celestial dragons have always been very lenient, internal fighting between celestial dragons is generally not allowed, and violators may be severely punished. But the problem is, Ivan is Lord Im's adopted son, so we can't really punish him too harshly, right? How about we put him in confinement for 2 months and see? At this time, one of the square-faced men also made a suggestion, as if he had made a difficult choice. The other side probably won't accept it, after all, both legs are gone. Then what do you think? You can think of a way. That's it, it's better than no punishment at all before. Advertisement. After being questioned, the bald man sighed slightly, with a look of helplessness on his face, while the other 3 nodded similarly. However, they all quietly rolled their eyes at the square-faced man who seemed a bit suffering, and couldn't help but complain in their hearts. You know he is your prospective son-in-law, but you don't have to be so partial to him, right? But they can only complain in their hearts and dare not speak out. This is the only connected household among the 5 of them. There is no way, who allowed him to have a daughter, and he fell in love with her so early. Fortunately, they also ordered their boys not to provoke the little devil, otherwise, they would not collect their bodies after death. The only ones who really dare to mess with him are the ordinary celestial dragons who are ignorant and uninformed. But those are just the weakest celestial dragons. Now they're just a group of moths, and their real role is just as chess pieces symbolizing the supreme royal power. But if they also come into contact with real rights, they are actually no different from ordinary people. Unnecessary. Huh? X5. But at this moment, a cold voice suddenly appeared in this bright conference room. The moment they heard this voice, the other 5 people's pupils immediately shrank, and then they all knelt on the ground, facing the beautiful figure in a black evening dress. It's time for them to start. Is this so fast? What, are you questioning me? Don't dare, X4. Oh my god, it happened so quickly, but if you think about it carefully, it's normal. Lord Im's love for him has long been excessive. It seems that things are really going to change in the future. The comments say that the Vice Admiral can attack the male protagonist. Compared with the Celestial Dragon's Admiral in the original work, it seems to have dropped in price and is very wrong. I really didn't design this well. Aokiji is better to say that, after all, he is helping Robin escape. And since it didn't hurt him, the hero doesn't have to worry about it. But Akainu was prepared to take action against the hero in Ohara. It seems a bit unjustifiable not to punish him, but after all, the hero followed him for the reason of not interfering with the operation. So just pretend that you don't care about it, and after all, Akainu seems to have made a meritorious service, so I'll just give you a warning. However, saying that Akainu helped Roswald deal with the male protagonist is a bit too much. Although I changed part of the plot in the last chapter, before the change, Akainu never took action against the male protagonist again. He only fought with the seeds, that's all. 55 I taught her a good lesson last night. Please collect, send flowers, vote for comments. Advertisement, look, that kid is finally here. He usually acts like a freak, but now he's not afraid at all. He's just here. Yes, he has no remorse at all. He doesn't think this time will be the same as before, right? He got into big trouble this time. I guess he might react later, but it's a pity. It's a pity for the 3 women around him. They're all so good looking, and they will probably be executed together. That's not necessarily true. Maybe it will be given to Roswald. Then we might also be able to. Hoo. Ha ha ha, it's true, TCH, this kind of place is really smoky. If I had known about it, I wouldn't have come here. After hearing the quiet murmurs of the people around him, Esdeath, who was wearing a gorgeous blue evening gown, curled his lips in annoyance and complained dissatisfiedly. This is an exclusive hotel for celestial dragons to hold banquets. The surrounding decoration is magnificent, extremely luxurious and gorgeous. Today, all the celestial dragons are gathered together and come here. Of course, celestial dragons aren't the only ones who can come in. Naturally, some of the staff here are part of the staff, and some are concubines brought by the celestial dragons. On such occasions, maids, bodyguards, butlers, etc. will basically not come in, let alone lowly slaves. However, today was supposed to be a chance to meet together in a more serious conference hall, or even a place like the Judgment Hall. I don't know why, but it seems to be very festive, and I have prepared all kinds of rich and delicious food. What are you doing? Of course, Esdeath didn't care about this. She just felt disgusted by these people's random thoughts in Yin Xia's eyes. You still have the nerve to say that it was you who caused the trouble this time? You didn't have any sense of propriety in what you did. It was really too reckless. But at this time, Albedo, who was standing next to her and wearing a pure white evening dress, also silently complained, as if she was complaining. Allah, Miss Albedo doesn't seem to have the right to criticize others. I heard that you also made a celestial dragons insane and are still in the hospital. But the tone of her words was not very convincing. After Shinobu, who was wearing a black dress on the other side, chuckled and teased her, Albedo also had a slightly embarrassed look on her face. She heard about this yesterday, so she was a little dissatisfied with Esdeath. But when I thought about it, I seem to have done similar things before, so I didn't say much about her, just made some complaints about her. Advertisement, what? Aren't you similar to me? Ahem, I did it because the other party insulted Lord Ivan, and I didn't do it that harshly, it's just. I just wanted to kill him. If Lord Ivan hadn't stopped me, I heard it would have been done. So, I just want to scare. Okay, how long are you going to fight like this? But just when the 3 of them were about to continue arguing, they were interrupted by a voice from the front. Ivan, who was standing in front of them, glanced at the 3 of them and complained angrily. But this time, the 3 of them did not continue to mess around, but kept their mouths shut, appearing more obedient. There was no way. Esdeath made a mistake, and the other 2 were begging him to let them come over. In the end, the 3 of them came in as his concubines. They didn't have any objections to this, but they were a little happy. But Ivan was not so happy. This battle looked like he was going to be punished, so it was made like a celebration. Of course, he himself wasn't worried. With his godmother here, there is no way he would be severely punished. According to his expectations, he might be punished with confinement for 2 to 3 months at most. That didn't mean anything to him. He was a homebody to begin with, so staying at home and getting along with them would make him feel more comfortable. I'm just afraid that if something happens, there will be some trouble. You idiot, you finally came here, Armas. But at this time, a slightly dissatisfied voice suddenly came from the front. Even if they didn't see the person, they could already tell who it was just by listening to this strange idiom. Sure enough, Shirley, who was wearing Celestial Dragon's unique costume and a bubble hood on her head, also came over, put her hands on her waist in dissatisfaction, and glared at Ivan. What's wrong? Are you worried about me? What are you worried about, Armas? I'm almost mad at you. You actually let your pet do such a thing. Do you know how much trouble you've caused, Armas? I know, so I taught her a lesson last night, XN. Listen to this. Why is it so weird? 56 I should kill them all next time. Please add to favorites, flowers, and comment votes. Advertisement, speaking of which, Esdeath, you haven't met her yet, right? She is my fiancée, Shirley. Who? So there are female celestial dragons around, Master? I thought you were despised a long time ago. After hearing Ivan's introduction, Esdeath also looked at the female Tianlong in front of him with great interest. But in her appearance, there is no humility that ordinary people should have. Instead, she looks more like celestial dragons than real celestial dragons. TCH, with this kind of personality, no wonder she would cause trouble for Armas. I think she will continue to cause trouble for you, Armas, in the future. However, Shirley was not very surprised by Esdeath's appearance, she just complained angrily. Well, she was already used to women said to be from Otherworld. Everyone has weird personalities, extremely arrogant tempers, and they only have Ivan in their eyes. Forget it, there was only one last saving grace, so she just had to endure it. But the problem is that the previous one, Albedo, mainly suffered mental damage, and there was no obvious physical damage, so at least it didn't cause much damage on the surface. But this time, all the limbs were directly amputated for you. It's too violent, haha, I would rather she be bolder, otherwise, she will be the one who suffers. If something like this happens again next time, I would suggest that she hide her identity and do it all. Hey, idiot, come over here and talk to Armas. After hearing Ivan's answer, which showed no sign of repentance and even became more serious, Shirley became angry. But she did not attack directly. Instead, she took the initiative to stretch out her right hand, then pulled him to a corner and sat at a table here. After all, there were many people listening to their conversation just now. What they said just now was not good. However, her reaction surprised Esdeath, who looked at her with more interest. She saw a lot of celestial dragons here today. Sure enough, they all looked extremely arrogant and wore bubble hoods on their heads. They didn't bother to breathe the same air as ordinary people. Just like the trash yesterday. Originally, she would have thought that all the celestial dragons, except for their master, and his godmother, were like that. As a result, it seems now that his fiancé is quite interesting. Although she also wore a bubble hood, she was surprisingly friendly towards them. And when he was talking to his master, although it looked like he was scolding him, he was actually more concerned. It seems that the special group is not the celestial dragons, but the master, right? Because he is such an alternative, the people around him have become a little weird. Advertisement, it can be seen that this female celestial dragons really likes him. Otherwise, in this situation, I would have been eager to pretend not to see it. How could I show my attitude of being together like this? It is indeed not easy to have a woman like this, even if she has a bad temper, she can accept it. Of course, what she didn't notice was that she might not be qualified to speak against others. Although Shirley has a big temper, she has always been influenced by Ivan since she was a child, so in many things, she only looks arrogant on the surface, but she is actually quite soft-hearted. When she once saw some celestial dragons girls of the same age torture some slaves to death, she bought them specially. And on the surface, they seemed to be treated cruelly, but in fact, they were always given painkillers, and their food, housing, and other provisions were much better than those of ordinary slaves. But recently, she has also released those slaves. After thinking about it, those slaves are working very hard, so she should let them go back to their hometown. Of course, she was unwilling to admit it. Even to Ivan, she never mentioned this matter. Ivan only made his own guess. So, she is completely different from Esdeath, who is very proud both on the outside and on the inside. Next, you will most likely be punished, Armas, so don't say any more bad words. Someone will catch you then, Armas. It doesn't matter, why don't I just say it casually? They usually curse me to death. Ivan didn't take Shirley's reminder seriously. I don't know how many times I have said this kind of talk in front of those people. And those people gathered together in private and thought of many ways to punish him, some of which were of a bad nature, but Ivan saw through them all and punished him severely. So he doesn't care about this at all. Really, at least talk less about Armas now. Besides, you were already fine, but the problem was her. Couldn't you have been less cruel then? Yeah, indeed. It's too late to regret now, Armas. I think what the master said makes sense. Everyone should have been killed at that time. No one saw who I was anyway. You, hateful. This woman is the same as Brother Ivan. Okay, everyone is almost here, so we are about to start the formal topic. But at this moment, a serious voice began to sound from the direction of the podium in front of the living room. 5 middle-aged men walked to the podium silently, with serious expressions on their faces. The atmosphere gradually began to solidify. 57 dead old woman, are you tired of living? Asking for collections, flowers, and evaluation votes. Advertisement. This time everyone is gathered together. I believe everyone understands the reason. Yes, please, the 5 of you must uphold justice. That's right, this guy Ivan Ross is really too much. Even one of his subordinates is so arrogant. If he is not severely punished, he will definitely get worse. Maybe he will attack all of us. This time, I really can't forgive him anymore. Please punish him well. As soon as the round-faced man with 2 beards on the stage spoke, the celestial dragons around him immediately started shouting. The voice was full of resentment and eagerness, with the intention of not giving up until he obeyed. There were also many celestial dragons around, probably more than half of them responded together. Although many of the remaining people did not speak, their expressions were serious. It is conceivable that Ivan usually does not have a good reputation in front of the celestial dragons. Of course, he wished it would be like this. If you can be appreciated by these people, then you will definitely become a great scumbag. But there are a few celestial dragons who don't do this. They sat aside, drinking wine and eating delicious food, as if these things had nothing to do with them. But they also quietly looked at Ivan, with a somewhat curious look in their eyes. And some of these people are the rare ones who don't wear head coverings. In fact, they are all descendants of the 5 elders family and belong to the first-class celestial dragons. Well, celestial dragons also has its pros and cons. Although the celestial dragons family are all descendants of the savior, there are also priorities in the savior. The 5 families of the 5 elders account for the vast majority of the main body. Their combat power, financial resources, contributions, etc. are the largest, and the remaining ones combined are not as good as any of the 5 families. Therefore, when it comes to actually dealing with things, it still depends on them. Each generation of 5 elders is succeeded by the best young person in the current generation. Therefore, the members of their 5 families have always been different from the remaining dozen families. They have always received elite education. Even if they want to become 5 elders, they will be assisted by various assistants and become important members of the political world. Therefore, people like them are actually the real celestial dragons. But they won't care about the behavior of the remaining celestial dragons. After all, advertisement in essence, they are somewhat arrogant like other celestial dragons, and they still think that they are superior to ordinary people. And as long as they cannot become 5 elders, their status is actually not much different from that of ordinary celestial dragons, just a little more noble, so they will get used to it after a long time. However, this subtle change in status still makes many second-class celestial dragons want to curry favor with these first-class celestial dragons. So even though Shirley had a good relationship with Ivan, and seemed a little different from her other celestial dragons, they didn't target her. On the contrary, they showed kindness from time to time. Okay, I know your request, but we have already understood the specific situation. When Roswald came back, he directly bombarded Ivan Ross's men and added verbal provocation first, so that's why it's like this. I told you a long time ago not to kill people casually. At this time, the bald man in kimono from 5 elders also looked at everyone with a serious face and said. But the words did not mean to verbally criticize Ivan as everyone imagined. Instead, they began to teach them a lesson. It's like this again. Every time it starts like this, every time they come to criticize Ivan Ross, these 5 people will find various reasons to defend him. Obviously, in the years when Ivan Los was born, they didn't seem to see them doting on him so much. He was almost like their illegitimate son. No, to put it bluntly, he is just like his biological father. Lord Tien Yuming. Those are just untouchables. Aren't my son's legs much more precious than the lives of those untouchables? At this time, an old woman shouted excitedly at the bald man. She is none other than Roswald's mother, and naturally is celestial dragons. But originally he was quite pampered, so his skin was still pretty good and he looked younger. But now when he gets angry, his whole face looks distorted. But judging from her meaning, it is also very obvious. She also doesn't take the lives of people other than the celestial dragons seriously at all. Then what do you want to do? I know that it was not that brat Ivan Ross who did it. He is also responsible, but we will not discuss him for the time being. I only want one result, and that is to send this woman to my home to be our Rosewade slave. XN good guy, you can imagine what would happen if that were the case. Damn old woman, are you tired of living? At this moment, a voice suddenly reached everyone's ears, coming from the corner where Ivan and the others were before. If it was Ivan who said it at this time, then everyone would actually be able to accept it. After all, he has been like this since he was a child. He has never respected you just because you are an adult. They're all trash after all. But it wasn't him who spoke, and it was Esdeath's 58 five elders, who said we have to punish him, asking for collections, flowers, and evaluation votes. Advertisement, you. How dare she talk like that? That's too much. Do you know your identity? This B*ch. I must turn her into a slave. After hearing what Esdeath said, not to mention the old woman herself, even the faces of the surrounding celestial dragons who were listening suddenly became very ugly. If it was really Ivan who did it, then even if he really cut off Roseward's legs, then... Well, this is still a bit serious, but after all, it is an internal matter within celestial dragons, and there is still justice first. Although the celestial dragons have never taken the lives of ordinary people as their own, in fact, in the past few years, the five elders have stipulated this rule. Try not to harm innocent civilians, otherwise you will be responsible for the trouble. Therefore, if Ivan really wants to use this rule to calculate, it is indeed Roseward and the others who are at fault. But the problem is, Esdeaths are not celestial dragons. She was just a woman who appeared out of nowhere and followed Ivan. How could she have the right to talk to the celestial dragons like this? It's so boring. They say they want to turn me into a slave. Can I say that? Do you really think you are better than me? Of course, Esdeath didn't think so, but looked at them with a sneer, and his whole aura became completely different. An extremely powerful oppressive force instantly enveloped everyone present, making many people feel a biting coldness, especially the old woman, whose entire head was instantly empty. She has grown up in a world where the weak eat the strong, and she has always believed in this creed. Only strong people have the right to speak like this. Weak people like them are just joining the group to keep warm, and they are fierce and weak. Who are you qualified to tell her like this? Similar to Conqueror's Haki's spirit. Indeed, it seems that she is indeed not a simple person, she is a strong person from Otherworld. No wonder he would do such a thing. Feeling this completely different sense of oppression, even the five elders couldn't help but start commenting on each other. But of course they will not look down on Esdeaths like others. On the contrary, they have also heard of the existence of these visitors from other worlds. In their own original world, I'm afraid they were all top powerhouses, so naturally they wouldn't care about celestial dragons, let alone being pointed at and treated as slaves. But how should we solve this situation now? It may be the first time for many pampered celestial dragons to feel such a powerful and aggressive pressure, so many people were dumbfounded. But if it continues like this, something seems not good. Okay, just scare me a little. Just calm down your momentum, otherwise someone will be psychologically affected again. Fortunately, Ivan on the side suddenly spoke up and silently stopped her, and put his hand on her shoulder. Advertisement, TCH, since the master has said so, I will restrain myself a little bit, but if these guys dare to talk mean words again, I will cut off their tongues. XN seeing that this woman not only showed no remorse, but instead leaned her body obediently towards Ivan, and then said these words with a smile. The celestial dragons were really angry and scared, and they could only gnash their teeth, but they didn't dare to really speak anymore. This woman really dares to do it, but they were also curious, how could Ivan control such an irrepressible woman? But they naturally don't care about these things now. What they care about is how this woman will be sentenced. Lord Ming, please uphold justice. At this time, after the old woman recovered, she quickly asked the bald old man and the others again. This time he even started to cry, bursting into tears, which made people feel sympathy for him. Nothing, not really. At most, it might feel a little bit sad. But they really want to see how severely this woman will be punished. No matter what, according to past practice, if a complaint does come here, it will usually be left to them to deal with privately. Usually the five elders will not come together to hold such a big meeting. Therefore, this woman will definitely be severely punished in the end. Now that the matter has come to this, let's follow the provisions of the law. Everyone should not cause trouble in the future. You are not allowed to kill people for no reason, women, and you are not allowed to abuse or slaves, or even to death. Ivan, you should also teach your subordinates appropriately, not to be so harsh as it will cause trouble later. Oh, I understand, but if someone takes the initiative to cause trouble, we won't show mercy. Try to exercise restraint. After all, they can't change so easily. What? XN, that's it, what is going on? Now that everything is like this, are they still prepared to protect Ivan Ross? Master Ming, are you planning to punish him like this? When did we say that we were going to punish Ivan? He and his men have no problem handling this matter. We have told you countless times to restrain yourself, but you just don't listen. Now it has changed. This is what you deserve. XN this statement is too strong, right? Do we really want to forcibly protect Ivan Ross? 59 in the name of the Celestial Dragons, asking for collections, flowers, and evaluation votes. Advertisement, Sir Ming, this statement is too. What? Don't the orders we issued before count? No, it's not. Hearing what the old man in kimono said, even the old woman was speechless for a moment and couldn't find anything to say. Naturally, the same was true for the others. They really didn't expect that in this situation, 5 elders would still be willing to stand up and speak for Ivan Ross. And all 5 people actually agreed with this. You know, in normal times, the opinions of the 5 elders are never harmonious. Every time there is an event or something, you will see them arguing with each other and rarely agreeing with each other. Even if Ivan Ross is the quasi-son-in-law of one of the 5 elders, the other 4 will not show mercy at all. After all, if you really want to talk about son-in-law, there are people from other families. There are many cases of intermarriage among celestial dragons, even between first-class celestial dragons and second-class celestial dragons. But only Ivan can make them stand on a united front in a rare moment, which is really puzzling. To be honest, they do remember the legal provisions that were introduced a few years ago. How could they, who were used to being arrogant, be restrained by mere laws? So it has always been a matter of obedience and disobedience. On the surface, it has been acquiesced, but in fact there has been no change at all. After all, even if you, as a celestial dragons, kill a few civilians, not many people will care or resist. No one will report it directly to 5 elders, so even if 5 elders wanted to change it, it would actually be of no use. But to be honest, when there is nothing wrong with this kind of thing, you can really ignore it. But if something happens, then this can indeed be used as ironclad evidence. Anyway, I have already told you not to cause trouble. Now it is you who are actively looking for trouble. How dare you come here to sue me? Close black lens bracket. Obviously, the meaning of 5 elders has been expressed very clearly. Of course, among the celestial dragons present, except for Ivan himself, I am afraid that everyone cannot accept this kind of thing. No, actually even Ivan himself was a little surprised. Originally, he thought that he should be punished somewhat. Even if it was a painless confinement, he didn't care. He just accepted it. It wouldn't be a big deal anyway. But now, there is not even verbal criticism, it can only be regarded as a bit of negotiation. The words, "try to restrain yourself," seem to have a bit of a pleading meaning. But if you think about it carefully, you will understand. Judging from their appearance, they looked very determined and tough, looking so determined. Advertisement Ivan knew that it must be his godmother who was giving the order behind his back. To be honest, Ivan wanted to laugh a little, even though he knew the occasion was not appropriate, but he was still a little embarrassed. Originally, the 5 elders were supposed to deal with major events in the entire world, but they ended up having to deal with such little things, because of an order from their godmother, which really made him dumbfounded. Of course, Ivan would never think that she was making a fuss out of a molehill. If she hadn't been behind him, he would have received the most severe punishment for his behavior, and he might even have been expelled from his Celestial Dragons membership. That's it. Everything is now in accordance with the existing legal provisions. Your behavior over the years has indeed become more and more outrageous. It's time to exercise restraint, so now we are taking this opportunity to stricter laws will be enacted. If someone reports it and it is true, they will be severely punished. This matter is jointly determined by the 5 of us and must be obeyed. Therefore, everyone must obey the order in the name of Celestial Dragons, oath. In the name of the Celestial Dragons, X4, XN. Hearing the other 4 people raise their right hands at the same time, clenched them into fists, and said the same thing. Most of the celestial dragons present suddenly became extremely ugly. This last sentence cannot be said carelessly. If they really violate it, they may be expelled from the celestial dragons. In the name of the celestial dragons, but at this moment, a cold voice suddenly sounded. Ivan also silently raised his right hand, and then said these words calmly, seemingly without any hesitation. So, is he willing to abide by so many rules? Isn't it him who is the best at causing trouble? But what they didn't expect was that Ivan himself was the one who first formulated these legal provisions. In the name of the celestial dragons, XN at this time, a group of people also shouted loudly. It was the children of the 5 elders family. They all shouted in unison and looked very supportive. Obviously, they already knew it. Of course, this also included Shirley next to Ivan, who also screamed happily. After all, she is also involved in these laws, rather, she herself is the one who made the most detailed plans. Because she herself has been that kind of person, she knows better where to draw the line for celestial dragons, but she won't lower it too much. In the name of the celestial dragons, XN seeing their appearance, these second-class celestial dragons were naturally forced to accept it. Alas, what else should I do? Do you really want to be expelled? 60 Ivan, want to be our king, please collect flowers, evaluation votes. Advertisement. It is absolutely prohibited to rob civilian women and take them as your own against their will. Those who commit serious crimes will be deprived of their celestial dragon status. You cannot kill people casually. If someone is found to be of a bad nature, he will be severely punished and may even be deprived of his celestial dragon status. Slaves must not be abused wantonly, food must be sufficient, slaves must not be killed at will, and slaves imprisoned for more than 10 years must be released immediately. Slaves are not allowed to ride. They can travel by car instead, and the slaves' rest time should be appropriately increased. Slaves cannot be forced to reveal their bodies. Slaves who are seriously ill or seriously injured and endangering their lives must not be discarded directly. They should be treated responsibly, and they cannot be allowed to deliberately die. Why are there so many rules? Yeah, it makes my scalp numb. It would be too troublesome to abide by all these things, right? Looking at the rules and regulations listed in front of them, many celestial dragons present could not help but start to complain in various ways. Just now, 5 elders announced that they will publish these new legal provisions, saying that they must abide by them in the future. There are probably more than a dozen of them. Basically all of them are behaviors that need to be restrained, which makes them feel very dissatisfied. I am used to being arrogant and unscrupulous, but now I suddenly have to restrain myself, which is really uncomfortable. Things like robbing civilian girls are better. After all, some celestial dragons are disgusted with this. It's not that they have a better conscience, it's just that they feel that those ordinary women are not worthy of them. Not to mention those who are already married. With that kind of bad taste, there are still relatively few. But many of the latter laws were relatively friendly to slaves, making them somewhat reluctant to accept them. In their view, slaves are slaves, and there is no need to be so nice to slaves. The current situation seems to be to treat slaves as ordinary subordinates. Of course, there are still subtle differences. The treatment of slaves is definitely not as good as that of formerly hired subordinates, and they also have no money. But if you think about it carefully, it seems that some of them are acceptable. Like those slaves who have been slaves for 10 years, they have basically been tortured to the point of being tortured and can be replaced long ago. As for slaves who are sick or injured, it is normal to treat them. After all, slaves usually stay after seeing them through. It would be a pity to die like this. It is normal to give them more rest. But there was only one thing that they couldn't accept the most. Lord 5 Elders, is it true that you can't ride a slave? A celestial dragon's girl who was still young, probably only about 10 years old, walked directly to the 5 elders, and then with big innocent and pure eyes, asked questions that were a bit cruel to ordinary people. Advertisement. Her parents were also a little nervous and wanted to get her back in time. After all, children's words are unbridled, and they have just sworn an oath, so it is really a bit disobedient to ask directly in public now. Well, that's no longer possible. In fact, taking a car is much faster and more comfortable. Let's slowly learn to get used to it in the future. There are a lot of good-looking cars these days. Fortunately, the 5 elders did not make things difficult for this little girl. Instead, they responded with smiles, a rare look of kindness and kindness. Then why can't we kill useless slaves? Maybe it was because there was a precedent, so at this time a little boy came over and asked. This is to reduce their fear and serve you better. Oh, that? Then why asterisk asterisk asterisk? The next questions are various. Basically, it was the group of celestial dragons' children who gathered around and asked questions. The 5 elders, who usually looked very ferocious, now showed their amiable looks and began to answer questions in a friendly manner along with them. Stand up. The more they listened to their explanations, the more the celestial dragons around them became more accepting of it. It seems that some things are indeed not much different from before, but they just look more scary. Some laws are not hard and fast rules. As long as they don't hit the bottom line, it's fine. By the way, the World Summit will begin in 2 months. All members must be present by then. There is something very important to announce. Well, Master Ming, we know this. But what exactly is it? It's about the king. We, celestial dragons, are going to launch a real king. Ivan is going to be our second king. Oh, that's how it is. EHXN, did they hear it correctly just now? King of the celestial dragons? And, is it still Ivan Ross? Not to mention other people, even Ivan himself was confused. When did you say you wanted to become the king of the celestial dragons? What is Godmother doing?